All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. The August 13th, 2025 meeting. All right, the agenda today. It's a workshop meeting, so there will not be minutes of the meeting. They'll be recorded, but there'll just be a general discussion workshop. We're not going to do any votes, but to have a discussion. So, first order of business is everybody's got to get some food.
Yes.
Yes, that's my son on the tour. That's her mom.
So we go through talk about the agenda, but here we got, review prior year goals, discuss, assess progress towards goal completion, discuss how managers' performance and contribution towards goal completion, and discuss effectiveness evaluation tool, discuss possible changes, discuss proposed goals for the coming year. A lot to do here. A lot of the stuff overlaps. So I guess we can have a discussion of how we want to do it. So what I did is we have two things, right? So Bill Wilson compiled a evaluation, took everybody's notes and evaluation and put it on, and then I took everybody's goals and put it on one sheet that we sort of need to now rank and prioritize for this year. We could spend time going through goals from last year, whether Joe did a good job or a bad job. I'd rather, and when I'm fine doing that, my opinion is that we have the evaluation of what he did well, what he didn't do well, and then we have the goals we want to work on. I don't know what the value of it, unless we could talk about specifically. I don't even need to go through the whole thing line by line. There's specific goals we want to talk about. We can hit those and talk about. I applaud Joe and obviously things he did, and the things he didn't do are still going to be on the goals for next year. I'm not going to take anything away and get rid of it. We're just going to say he didn't get to it. Work on it next year. So maybe we can start with the compliment sandwich, but we can talk about things that we did well last year. And I do have so much to reflect from memory as you have. I kind of grabbed them from off there. Everybody saw it, but this would be these were the 2024 goals. So you want to see those? I'm 44. Okay. Let's take it fast down. But what I would say is that obviously the things I thought obviously we did well on were the town hall, right? We go through evaluation, but town hall, obviously we can talk about that as review. The 3A zoning, just the fact that we had a goal and we got it done. And obviously working with the school. A lot of things were on here that I thought, everything progressed in a certain direction, but some things that resolved are ongoing. But I thought everything progressed. I think for me, communication with the town, I still think we struggle with some of the social media and consensus stuff, and I just don't know if that's us or that's this makeup of our citizenship and how they reach out for information. So, but if you people want to talk about last year's goals, I'll open it up now to do that. Otherwise, we can move to Joe's evaluation and talk about next year's goals.
Well, I would hope that goals align to the evaluation, and I've been able to catch some of the nuggets and the things that were in the goals. So it might make sense to kind of go through that and insert goal accomplishments or not, and kind of keep track of what might roll forward or not, and that will parlay nicely into the 25.
That makes sense. You
know what I mean? Because I think, overall, Joe, I wanted to get it to you a little bit early so you could take a look at it. I think, as Bill said, I think this is kind of an old school format. I'm not sure it's the most effective. I found that all the rows and such got a little bit repetitive, and we could make it more efficient and consolidate it, for future kind of measurement and even discuss. I look at it as more of an alignment tool because goals continue, year over year over year, but if we back up, we signed a contract with you, last September. We committed to coming back a year later. Here we are. And to kind of give you an overview as such, we have an opportunity to even push out another year and have those discussions. But I would just say, echoing what Bill said, that, you've had, 7 years now? Or, I've seen, I followed you all 7, right? I've been in some form of government, all of it at that time as well. You've greatly improved and made strides in all of the areas. We talk generally about 7 categories that are outlined in this file. The first one being just general management communication. I look at that and you can see, you've met all of those, and some I think you exceeded. the first thing Bill touched on, preparing materials. I could argue we've made so much progress. You've exceeded what I thought you would have done, but there were some comments about, the copy, collate, scan approach. Ben made that, and I think it's a good one. Sometimes there's so many 100+ pages, it's hard to get to what you need. So maybe rethinking how maybe you push back the consent agenda, the minutes and such. But how do we get it where it's readable and accessible? Some of that's on us, but always room for improvement on that. But overall, I bucket that. You're a good consultant to the town and the board. I think you come prepared. Municipal government. You know the issues that lie ahead of us, and you come prepared to talk about it. So I think you exceed in those two areas as a consultant, and you demonstrate the ability to execute and then layer it down to your team. Even though we didn't have clear goals and outlines, I think over the past year, I think we were a work in progress, and we would give you stuff during every other meeting, and you would take that and you would execute. And in many cases, you brought us the stuff to talk about that you had to go back and execute. So, all positive. Anyone have any comments in that section, they can bring it up, but I'll just do a 5-minute flyby. Personnel management, I think you provide great leadership. One of the biggest things I think I would miss, at the point you decide to leave someday, is your leadership in the negotiation with all the many contracts we have. We have 8 employee contracts, and you're all over that. I think you're fair, you're balanced, you bring you represent the town well, and you represent the needs of your constituents as far as who's in that contract. That will be a huge gap, for this town, I think, going forward. That's a big piece. Financial management, another one, accolades to that GFOA award. You brought that in, a couple years ago. I think you incorporate tables into the annual report. You've, laid that out at select board meetings and town meetings. I think that's excellent. And we'll continue to grow on that and do the annual report and write-ups. So, that piece, I think you excel. We always have room for improvement. I think short-term budgeting, we nailed it. I think long-term piece, that's what keeps me a little bit in the middle more, is like, how do we got the capital committee, that's an advisory board to you. I think it's a great group. How do we take what they're doing, knowing all the contracts and expenses ahead of us, not only as a town, but as a school district as well, and put a longer term plan, not just capital, but operating expenses, because we know we're going to have some challenges over the coming years. I think we nail the current year. Maybe we should start looking at 2 years out, from an expense perspective. So planning wise, that rolls in, and I won't go through all of it, Bill, just in respect to time. I think you're proactive. You come prepared. You deal with unforeseen stuff. Stuff gets thrown at us all the time. You stay current with public stuff going on. So we're ahead of it. Whether it's 3A stuff and litigation, you consult our legal team appropriately. I do think there's an opportunity to look at all our IMAs we have, our vendor contracts, whether it's our auditors, our attorneys, all of it. Like, when's the last time we RFP'd it or rated it? Should any of that go back through the mill? I don't know. But I think with what we have today, you balance all those tools and resources, whether it's managing your own team or leveraging outsiders, very effectively. So, I think all of that, community outreach, Bill was talking about, always room for improvement. I think your bi-weekly report's great, but how do we continue to communicate, outward, whether it's social media? I love what your assistant Cindy's been doing. Some of those call outs on social media, those are reaching more people. We use the digital board, but how do we continue to leverage, school email list, the COA email list, whatever, but how do we just keep it out there? I think we've made huge progress in that area, but, always room for improvement, as Bill had said as well. So I think that's from like Reader's Digest or Cliff Note of it. But overall, I think, you've met every goal. I would argue you're teetering and on exceeding, a lot more, which would put you in that category at 7 years into a job, you would hope. And I think you're right aligned to, where I would expect you to be, as a leader for the town. So,
Were there any outliers that you saw? So the way we did, Joe, is that we sort of had Bill be the blind recipient, so we didn't all see what it. But was there any outliers?
Yeah, well, I think the one thing, I think the one thing that we left as needs improvement is really the longer term planning as well as the master plan, really, and that's part of longer term planning. I think you did a lot of work. I know you started it, then you had to restart it, right? Because there were some issues and we couldn't get it through, and then it sat with the planning board for a long time, and we also changed the scope for the consultants, right, to provide an implementation plan, which I don't think we've really addressed yet. So that would be probably the biggest outlier that I would say, let's go back and try to.
And sorry, these are good. Let me just before you go there, my question more like in terms of the five of us, did we have consensus, or did some of us completely disagree on the? Did you find amongst the 4 or 5 of us that we?
Yeah, I don't think there was any wide variances unless somebody has a call out.
Okay. All right, Chris. You could.
I think, everyone's welcome to speak. I tried to get some of those comments on the right. We never got back to that final stage of it. I think maybe we owe you that, where you can see how individuals might have said some things differently. This is kind of an aggregated view, but some of the IMA stuff, I think that was called out into discussion. Is it really, what services are we getting from it, and does that make sense? But basically an ROI, right? Or would it be better if we took it in-house? Are there more opportunities with those, or do we pull back? Some of those, and that led into not just IMAs, but all the other contracts, which we talked about, that we have out there.
Yep.
I don't think we've done, I love our attorneys, but I would love to look at that, kind of get a sense of the type of things we go after and we spend for. Are there ways to leverage even when they go after similar things? How do we kind of get cost efficient with that? Are we using them too much or not? I don't really know, but I just put that in the category of really assessing our partners and everything, and seeing if, just checking the box, revalidate what we think we have, or source it. I'm not saying we want to. That's not my business to share, but we should always be looking at that. And policies, that came up a little bit too. We've got some policies. We kind of attack them as they come to us. And, we've had good intentions to go back and relook it. We've all agreed, well, they're annual. The next board could change it anyway, but we should have a view of all our policies the last time, they were voted on and approved, and maybe have a cyclical view that, brings them back up. Like the easy things to think of, we've talked about flag policy a bit last year. We talked about facility use, things like that. Since they were hot buttons last year, we should probably rise those to the top, and we've done some work, but maybe. Those are the things I can think of. If somebody has something I missed.
I mean, I think the only other thing is that we had a lot of practice out of this year, but you were doing a great job at town meetings, right? I mean, but you, it was good demeanor. You're easy to listen to. You get up in front of people. I mean, get up in front of a group of, whether it's 10 people or whether it's 1,000 people, in terms of run the meeting well, make sure it's organized. Wenham failed on that, right? They had a meeting and
Yeah, logistics are good with you. I mean,
they said that we rescheduled.
we threw that at the bottom under the yellow and said you exceeded, because even though you can never make everybody happy, I think we really got creative in our 3 shots at it, or however many shots we've done this year. And I think we've made a lot of progress in that. So
Yeah, but the technology's getting better, the setup. I think we still got some hiccups, but the good is that every time we do it, we get a little bit better. Next, we're gonna focus on the caption stuff.
Closed caption.
caption
Bill's already
stuff.
working on it.
And we're gonna focus on seating, so we're gonna reserve seating for people in the front and then not make them wait in line. Like we went out there and saw people wait in line in the rain that should have been waiting in line in the rain. So it's like,
Well,
so it's stuff we didn't really plan
we
for.
did actually correct most of those issues at the next one, but again, did we really, or did it just appear that we did, because it was much smaller?
Yeah.
It was a third of the number of people we had at the June one. So did we really correct it, or it was just easy to manage because only a third of those people showed up? I don't want to crow too loudly that we succeeded in making
We
the changes.
did something we never did
made some
before.
changes and it didn't.
We did something we'd never done before. We had 1,000 people. We started an hour late and it went smoothly. And to start an hour late, I don't think
it's
it was a big deal.
1,600.
Yeah. To start an hour late, I don't think it was, and then have it go smoothly rather than try and rush it and have it. It was, we did the right thing. So, and so yeah, I look to I think you do a good job leading, advising your team, get advice. I think the one thing that that I already talked about was just the social media. I want to say social media, just how do we talk with our town, whether you call it, whether it's newspapers or newsletters or emails or website or whatever. Just how do we get the media out to our social community around us? And then I don't have enough purview because I work far away and I'm not home much, but I don't get enough purview into like town hall management and town hall staffing and town hall. How you manage staff, how you grow our staff, how the turnover there was a lot of turnover a couple years ago. It seems to be minimized now. I know everybody who left for a specific reason, not because they didn't want to work in Hamilton, they don't want to work with Joe, but it's just a better understanding of what that looks like in HR, sort of understanding. So it'd be good to figure out how we could get a better HR understanding of how the town hall works or what the real challenges you have are. It's hard to do it because we don't have executive sessions to talk about it, but I would welcome ideas about how maybe we can help you manage the HR and town hall if you have issues. So
Yeah, I think on that one of our call outs was, getting back to the department heads coming in, but they come react, with an issue, but really getting into the flow of hearing from your department heads, hey, this is what we're up to, this is what's working, this is our challenges, not to help you run it, but just to, get an understanding, because I know operationally that's your job, but to his point of people leaving, and I think we should have and be involved in some succession planning type of thing. Like we just had a chief of police leave, and maybe a few months in, we have that chief come in and talk to us a bit. We know that there could be some other retirements or resignations, but we should probably understand, at least on your leadership team, kind of, do you have a succession plan? What would you do? Who are we developing for the next step? If it's internal, or do we know we'd have to go outside? Because when it comes, we want to be ready.
Right. No, I appreciate all that feedback. Excellent. I read through the report that Bill sent earlier today, and I think it's all things that we can easily add to what our operation and improve on. The one thing, and I'm not using it as an excuse, but the one thing I'll call out is I agree. It's fair criticism on the on the use of the master plan, the implementation plan in the process of budgeting and looking ahead. It is something we need to pay attention to. I'm not going to make excuses about why we did or didn't get to it this year. It was approved by the planning board, had to go to the state and be approved by the state. We didn't get that right away, and then the format that we had it approved in, we weren't able to get it up on the website, so it was difficult to kind of share it with department heads and say, hey, we're going to use this as we think about next year. So it be that as it may, it is what it is. Well,
No, but in fairness,
we finally have it up on the website. We can use it now. So.
You're not wrong at all. I mean, I think it was a Herculean feat to get it where we did, and then competing priorities came into play, right? And that's where you leverage this board, and we should have a live doc that's a living doc on this type of thing, and we say, and we agree, we're going to move this out, and then we have it flow, and because we all knew it kind of, and I think it's more in there as a, hey, let's make sure we grab it and continue, and we're talking about it, than a ding, in my opinion. It's not a ding. It's hey, if there's something we should make sure we pull forward, is let's dust that off, because that will impact a lot of other things that we make decisions, and we can point to that document for why, because there's a lot of good citizen and board input in there.
anything to add to the review side?
My criticism is I think the COA still suffers from lack of attention, and that concerns me greatly.
That does fall into like department heads in areas where, those updates and people coming in, and she did come in, right? And you spoke to it. You're right. That is an area, and there's some others too. Like if we want to take items and then come back and have meetings and talk about opportunities, not only, we should call out successes and celebrations. One thing was like, how do we get more feedback on communication from all the boards and committees and volunteers doing stuff? I kind of recommended maybe there's a process and flow where they all send us a couple of 3 bullets, and then once a month we kind of call out some highlights of good things and whatever. I think that would be a good standard process, but I agree there's definitely department stuff that,
That is important, and I think it's important as a liaison to keep the lines of communication, to bring it back to the town if perhaps it isn't on par priority. I think I still find that very distressing. I do think, in general, I would agree with 99% of your comments. I think Joe has done a really good job in many areas. You may have no complaints about all the things that he's done. I think the regional agreements, the intra-region, what is IMA?
Intermunicipal.
Intermunicipal. Okay, right. Those agreements have all proven to be very successful for the most part, and I think they're all very good. I think one of the things also is important to do is continue supervision and communication with department heads.
Supervision by who?
Your job is to supervise department heads, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I'm only referring to your responsibilities, and I think as a general rule, all of that is very good. I do think there's a lot of retention in in the town hall area and people I talk to, there's no grumbling. People seem, in general, pretty happy. I think you had talked about the Patton Homestead and what future plans would be for that. I think that's important. What?
So I want to get to the goals.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what I
I
was
just want to
Please.
get the review done. So I got your questions and go to the goals.
Sure. Rosemary's.
All set.
Okay.
Please go.
Yeah, no, I mean, just a couple of quick points I'll add. I agree with all the feedback that's been given today. I do appreciate being on top of things. You know, when I call you about something that's, you know, I've heard from a constituent, you're already on top of it, you already know about it, you're already contacted, you know, council if we need to. I feel like you're very responsive in that sense. I appreciate that. The communication piece I agree with. I think we've done better with communication, but I think it's always a challenge with communicating with, you know, our residents and making sure that everyone's heard. I think the town manager report is great. If we can maybe try and amplify that in some way to make sure that everyone that wants access or knows about it can get access, I think will be helpful. I even like the communication with the Gordon Conwell, even that email today with like the residents and the abutters. I mean, just making sure that like, you know, you've been very open with them and communicating with them, and that email today shows that whether you've gotten some good feedback of like keeping them in the loop on the process. And I like the fact that we've had that email chain going, which is great. So yeah, overall, I think great job. Really happy with, you know, how you've been operating. I do agree with the long term, you know, sort of like multi-year look at finances and making sure that we're, you know, planning for not just, you know, the next year but multi-year out. I think it's helpful as well. So, but overall, yeah, I agree with everything that's been said.
Yeah, I mean to restate all everything. So my highlight, you know, I've spent a lot. I'm new to the board and everything. I'm new to hang around town hall. I've got my office hours out there every couple of weeks, so I've been meeting everybody that directly reports to Joe, and it's a very positive vibe there as well. You know, there's friendliness, professionalism, you know, attention to detail. How can I help? How can I? And just it's very clear that comes from like leadership and attitude as well, right? And including people and people knowing that they can rely on you, you know, be an expert, to be that consultant, you know, and to be professional and courteous, all those things. So you can tell that that's manifesting, you know, kind of in the staff and just sort of like the energy and attitude and the way that people not only like help me but help everybody who's coming through the door there. You know? So I think that's just one anecdote of, but it's been consistent every time I'm out there, every 2 weeks, and so. Thanks for that. Just wanted to add that because everything else everybody said on the positive front, I agree with. I think to double click on the long range like planning, and in particular, maybe it's something around, and it's sort of in layering as well of, you know, hearing from the department heads directly, as well as not like, you know, we trust that you're doing your job and that you're, you know, holding those folks accountable. But then for us to have those kind of like report outs and hear from you and them, and whether it's four times a year or twice a year for some departments, like whatever that cadence is, so that we're constantly kind of like of the key challenges, you know, that they're facing, and understanding as well how we can kind of like help or support or what we need to be thinking on and prioritizing in our agendas. And that kind of, like, you know, just like those roadmap things of like, you know, I think we're really strong in 1 to 2 years. Couldn't agree more. Like, it's very clear from the accolades that we're doing better than most towns in the Commonwealth, which is fantastic. And then it's like, well, if we wanted to kind of take things to the next level, so, is something I've heard from some of the constituents in my office hours around like that visibility of like, that's great. Like, we kind of know what we're going to do for this project or this initiative, you know, for the next 12, 24 months or 3 years, but what else? Like, what else is coming, you know, and whether it's costs, capital costs or OPEX costs or, you know, their options. I think having transparency and like consistent reminders for people as well of where we are on these long range projects, like where we are in the process. And like, sometimes it's like a nice visual of, you know, we started this thing back in, you know, 2020, now here. And like, as we said, like kind of, you know, and maybe if schedules are changing, that's okay too. But it's just like, reminding people kind of like where we are and like where we've been and where we're going, and that kind of transparency there seems to be
that's something I've heard a lot of consistency around, because people want that visibility out. I know it's always hard to predict, and it's it's easier to deal with one problem at a time, right? You know, it's like it's hard enough sometimes, I think, to deal with the challenges we're put every couple of weeks. But you know, as that's something that I think gives people more comfort and confidence in their ability to be like brought along. You know, so that communication around how they can get involved, where they can support us as well, where they can volunteer, and how that maps onto these longer timelines would go a long way. So, and I think that's, you're already doing a lot of that in the reports, but there's something about like making it somehow, I don't know how. This is something I've worked on together, making that more accessible, in a digestible format. Like, 'cause I know we're doing a lot through a lot of different channels already, then, so there's a question of how else do we make that apparent? And I think that quarterly meetings, quarterly updates, things at select board meetings, or if we're attending other department or committee meetings, that there's overlap there as well, to just make those reminders of where we are on the map. So that'd be my biggest thing. And it's not only up to you, right? It's up to us as well. So so I think the last thing would be, how can we help? What else can we do? And that's probably for the workshop session, but where do you see that we need to lean in more to help out?
I mean, it's a hard way to run a government, right? You got 5 people who work full time,
Yeah.
volunteer, work. I know we all work very hard in our jobs, so we're not sitting around. We can't speak to each other unless we're in a town meeting in public, and so it's and then you're so it's a hard way, and we do a really good job doing it. So it shows you the chemistry we have and the hard work we all put in. So definitely rely on me. So thank you.
And I would just like to add one other comment. I do appreciate your responsiveness all the time. That is very reassuring that you're on top of things, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure my colleagues do as well.
Yeah. Yes. Agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've never not responded to an email, like phone call, outreach. I don't know if anybody's ever said you haven't responded to them. So yeah, that's a hard thing to do in this day and age when you have people reach out to you from all different ways all the time. So. All right, good. So, what do we need to do with the review to memorialize it, or what else would you like from us to sort of help you sort of?
I mean, I think that I appreciate all the feedback here. I don't really have a lot of to comment back on. I think it's all good positive. It's all good feedback. Even the comments that are criticisms, they're accurate criticisms and things that I and the organization need to work on. So we'll get to addressing those in the coming year. I think for your process to kind of finalize this, you can't take a vote tonight. That's the first time you're all talking about what's in this bill distributed to you all today. So if we can have, we've already posted the agenda for Monday, so if you can have it on the agenda for September 8th to just say that, we'll go through it. I think there were a couple typos. We'll try to clean up the typos. And then you can vote on it if you accept it or make any changes or edits, amendments that you want to on it on September 8th. And then you vote on it as amended, and we'll post it. It'll be available online to be reviewed by anybody that wants to see what.
So it is open to the public.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if there's any tweaks or edits, we have an opportunity to do that. I'm happy to take that back. So if anybody has it out.
So, Joe, one question I had for you was, we 3-4 years ago, whenever we came up with this format, we decided that we wanted to create our own format, make it personal, make it relative to what we're doing. But looking to you, like for next year's review, is there a better format, in the industry standard format, or something that you've seen from other town managers? I know you go to some of these conferences and stuff, but if you wanted to recommend a different format for next year, I would be willing to look at that, because I think, we did, I do a lot of reviews, but we have a certain way we do it at our company, and then I move companies in a different way. So there's a lot of ways to do reviews. So if you had a better idea within the town government, let us know.
Yeah, so, I mean, I can try to, for the September 8th meeting, share some, I can pull some other examples and share them with you, and you talk about how you might want to amend this or adopt a different, you know, this is kind of a necessary function because it's called on the contract that my annual increases in your opportunities to extend me are based on you having a review. So we have to do an annual evaluation. The move in, throughout the industry is to move away from annual evaluations and move towards what, instead of performance evaluations, they're referring to performance management, which means it's a more regular, consistent conversation throughout the course of the year. And to try to initiate that with the people at the top of the organization so that you can then, float it down throughout the organization. And that's really been the move in human resources, is to move into that kind of format. Like I said, my contract calls for you to do that, do the annual evaluation as has been historical. So
We could do both, right? We could have the sinks, I call them, which is exactly what you described, and then at the annual piece of your contract, we could just validate the sink and the boom, and then go forward. Because we are at the point right now for validation, we have an option to extend them a year. Over the next 2 years, we have that same option after 1 year, so we should talk about that as well.
once you've confirmed or finalized the review, and you'll tell me if you want to do it in the same meeting or if you want to do it at a future meeting, you'll have you can then, once this is done, you can take it up to make a motion whether or not to extend me or don't ignore it and don't extend me. It's all.
So you're still in contract for 3 years.
Yeah,
but we work together to try to keep it
so
rolling.
effective. Unless you extend me, we have 2 years left.
Right.
So-
Right. Yeah. I mean, you're in a 3-year contract, 1 year in,
1 year into
but we
3
can continue to make it a 3
again.
2 more times,
Right.
1 more time. This time.
This time, one more time, right?
I did pull that and read it. So, but there is some triggers and compensation changes associated with that too. Right? Yeah. Oh, I thought you looked surprised.
Yeah, no. Yep. So, yeah,
But definitely, this is a little old school. I think SMART. You hear about SMART goals, right? Something specific and measurable, and
We do goal wage, job description, and SMART goals and all that
Yeah.
stuff, but SMART goes a little bit more about career development than it is about performance.
performance and
But you can put specific things in there. You could put, town hall could be a SMART goal. Hey, we're going to drive this, or people management, which has specific. It'll call out some of the things we have in the goals, and that's what you sit on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly basis and have a sync. How are we doing on our goals? Are we moving? What's in your way? What's not? Do we reprioritize the master plan? It makes it a continual discussion versus a touch point, annually.
Yeah, I almost wonder if it needs to be almost 2 different documents, because this kind of touches on my performance as the town manager, all the things that I'm supposed to manage in the day-to-day. The annual goals that we set together and work are part of this or overlay it, but I could be doing a better job with communications every year, but not have a specific measurable goal. Like, we've made some measurable goals. We've made improvements to the website.
Yeah.
We've made concerted effort to change the way we use Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. So, we've done those things. But then, okay, we did it. Does that mean it was successful or wasn't successful? Right.
So
I have a hard time managing. I have a hard time grading you to a goal that we can't control. So you say, okay, we wanted to basically finalize the Gordon Conwell agreement by now, and we didn't. But it wasn't because you didn't do a good job managing it. It was because of other things outside our control. So if you say, well, we got a C because it's not done, well, Joe didn't get a C. We got a
It's
C
never
because-
that black and
Yeah.
white, Bill. It's never that
just
black and
like
white. That's not fair.
Yeah.
Working toward goals.
But you're-
It's
But
you
do a great
manage a
job.
goal and you manage a process. So just like the master plan, to your very valid point in the master plan, you don't get to see in the master plan. But you demonstrate along the way that we managed the process and the ball moved. Sometimes the ball moves forward. Doesn't mean you get a 150% bonus either. It works
no
both
options for
ways.
150% bonus?
Yeah, and I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm
It's
using
a fine
my
screen to
screen.
see that.
Yeah,
There's
so-
definitely better ways.
yeah,
But if you come back to us, we're not going to do it now. And maybe there's a way you work with your teams. Because the other thing I feel when I manage some large teams, it's like, how does it disseminate down into the people who are executing on your behalf? And like, how do we have insight to show that, yeah, we're working these pieces of paper with Joe. How does it resonate through his team?
So what I've been trying to do in the absence of that is use the goals that we set annually for the budget process and set into the GFOA template, and we kind of distribute those out so that when Tim is talking about making changes or funding different programs and services in DPW,
Yeah.
how does this align with the goals that were set by the town, you know, so, we can do more of that with those other wider goals as well.
Whatever you're doing is working. We're just trying to make it easier for you too, and formulate. That's a part of communication
So,
too, right?
I think that,
Up and down the ladder and across.
so you know, I appreciate all the positive, the nice words, I appreciate all that. I appreciate the critiques because I think we can get better. I'm not, I'm not that person who wants to sit here and blow my own horn. We have a really good team. We have a lot of really good department heads and assistants doing really good work every day. I feel like the main thing I've done is try to be open and transparent with them and support them in what they're doing. Sometimes you have to tell them no, but my goal is to just always just lead by example. I'm gonna express to you what we think the goals are, what we need. You tell me what you need to get those goals done, and then I do my best to make sure they have that resource. And I think our people know that I have their back, and that's the main thing I want them to be conscious of. Even if when we disagree, I have their back. So
Right. And we want you to know the same thing.
I mean, one thing that might be helpful is that Conf Syncs, but we do something called 360s, where anytime throughout the year you can just send a note and say, hey, I can send a note to them. Fill out this request about your interaction with Joe over the past month, right? And just fill it out. It kind of gives them quick feedback. And it takes 5 minutes to do it. So it's a way for us maybe to reach out to the department head
Yeah.
with a form and just say, hey, give us 5 minutes of comments, just plus delta type stuff. So we can maybe do some 360s.
Those are great. Those are great. Does your team or others ever express the desire to 360 us or 180
no,
us?
they mostly just want.
Success.
They mostly just want to get their work. They
180,
mostly just want to get their work done and have people appreciate that they got the work done. They're mostly just happy with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
We really
your
do that
the
dedicated
overall
people.
message, you know, we're calling out things to continually improve, but you've got an awesome team, as you said. You're doing a great job. I think we have tackled very difficult topics and situations, and I think in some ways that made everyone stronger, as hard as it was. And so, like, now we're built for battle. I think we can attack anything.
Battle ready.
Battle ready. Yeah, thank you.
I mean, but it does start with the boards too. You particularly have set a tone in the town in the last year that I think has been appreciated by the staff and certainly appreciated by me because it allows me to keep doing what I'm trying to do, which is just do the best job we can for Hamilton.
Good. All right, so that's a good transition to move on to goals. So we sort of had 3 pieces of paper. So we had the 2024 goal that we normally need to look at. Then we have the 2025 goal, and I'm not sure who created this document.
I
You
did. And everything in it can change. It was just a
That's a
suggestion.
good right, so
Yeah,
I think it's a great document, but I'm gonna put this aside for right now. We'll come back to it.
Okay.
And I like this document because it has a timeline. It has a measure of success. Because that's one thing about SMART goals. It's not just about what your goal is, about what measures the success of the goal, right? It's not just like I want to be better communicator. What does that? You can say that. What does that mean? I want to be better at, doing meeting minutes. What does that mean? So I think it's good for us to get back to it. What I try to do on this form, which is dated August 13th, 2025, is that I try to take everybody's notes, okay? Try to make them succinct. And those are not my words. So if I summarize your words and didn't do it properly, raise your hand and we can change the words. I try to put everything into one document. This is what I emailed you, and give us a copy of it. If you don't, it's right here. So if you want to work on your computer, you did get an email of it today. Otherwise, we can work off the hard copy. And so what I did is I summarized, and everything on here we're working on right now. So just the priority of it. So whether or not it's just a day-to-day or whether you want to actually rubber stamp it as a town goal. So everything on here we're working on today, except maybe some stuff at the end. So the first section, which is goals, is all the primary stuff that we identified in 2024, 2025, and maybe some stuff that we want to add for 2026. Then we have section 2, which is task and support, which is sort of more of the day-to-day. And then I put other items that we've all sort of talked about, but we've never had on the goal before. So what I want to do, you would have plenty of time, you would all go and rank these things, that we can compare the rankings, but I might just do it as a discussion.
Sure.
And I think we pretty much all have consensus on stuff. I think it's when you get to the second or third page that you might say, well, this is important, but it's not really a goal. It's probably something that just be on Joe's list when we get forward. He doesn't have to focus on it.
Yeah.
So I'll start, and please just jump in. I don't want to be the one to talk, but yeah, obviously water's number one. Priority's always been priority. We're always working on water, whether it's new water lines in town, whether it's improving the plant, whether it's doing, tracking the water bans and communicating with people. So, so I think what I had on here only thing I added to it was that I think this task force, I called it task force, but the task force is new, different than last year. So it's really about two things for me for this year is that it's what the task force will do for us in terms of you providing options, solutions, costs, challenges, and I think even Rosemary said something about, what does it mean? Like we keep talking about water, but what is the plan? What is the cost? What is the impact? What's the 5, 10, 20-year plan, right? I think for me, my goal is in the board for the last, the next 2 years that I'm here is not to talk about the next 2 years, talk about what's our 5. Everything should be what's our 5-year goal, what's our 10-year. I don't think we get so stuck in the moment we kind of forget about the 5 and the 10 and the 20-year goal. But the town's gonna be here for like 100 years, so we want to leave it in a good place, right? And then educate the town, because I think that when we have the water bans, all I hear from people is I can't water my lawn. They don't really understand why. They don't see the numbers. Like the water is so low. It's like, like how do we educate towns so that it's not just about them and their watering their lawn or their pool or they just think they're paying taxes. They can't use the water they're paying for. Like I think we somehow have to do a better job of communicating what So those are the notes I made here on the water. So. Water's everybody's number one
I was
priority.
out there, I was scared. Like our last meeting, I think it was John FinCom said it's going to dwarf the cost of the schools. I'm like, I just leaned back.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I think it's so education is important to figure it out. What's sustainable for the next 100 years? To Bill's point.
Yeah, so
what's in front
it's
of us?
going to dwarf, but the goal here and the goal for the North Shore Water Resiliency Task Force and the Lower Basin Subcommittee is that cost is coming, but it's to share it among the largest group of communities as possible to spread it out.
Right.
Two things. We can't solve Hamilton's water resource issue alone because there just isn't another source for us to go to by ourselves. So we have to join forces with somebody. And the task force is trying to help us join the largest group possible so that our residents and our ratepayers don't have this humongous bill that they're trying to foot just on their own.
Yeah, no,
We're
I
in
love
far
that
better
you're
shape
on
than a
that
lot of
task
towns.
force.
We got lucky, and we're not gonna brag about it. Say that it was through great planning or anything. We got lucky that we had the TTHM issue with our water sources a few years ago because the board, Bill and Rosie were on that board, moved to build the secondary treatment plant at our water plant to remove those, and the GAC filtration system that you chose also removes PFAS.
Right.
It wasn't a requirement at the state and federal level at the time, but we had inkling that it was coming.
Yeah.
And the board chose the more expensive option to treat TTHMs because we knew that it would help us with a future requirement to treat for PFAS. And now we're there and we've got our plant up and running. And we're basically having at no detect level at PFAS in the town water supply. That doesn't help people who are on well still, but if you're in the town supply, there's no detect of PFAS in your water. All the towns around us are scrambling right now to figure out their solution because they've only got 5 years to get to that level. We're already there.
Yeah.
So yes, the water solutions coming down the road are huge in terms of financial numbers, but if we share them with our neighbors, then we can get some state support for them. I used to say state and federal support, but in the current environment, I'm not sure that's coming. If we can get some state support for it, and the state sees that we're building critical mass so that the state will invest is a key to. If we don't build critical mass, the state's going to leave us on our own.
So as far as like a measurable goal for this year, we're not going to solve the water crisis this year, right, from the task force. But I imagine there's going to be some sort of like report out, I think intervals during the year of like what the next steps are. So should we have like, a stated period that we should be briefed on during the year?
You'll be getting updates over the next 6 months or so, periodically. I won't say necessarily every month, but most likely you'll have some kind of an update at least once a month over the next 6 months. The Lower Basin Subcommittee's work is designed to result in making recommendations to the full task force by December, January, and then asking for votes from the member communities in January, February. So that's in the next 6 months.
So is the task force, does it have like a milestone schedule? Is it only for a year or is it for a multi-year?
Well, the task force has been together for over 5
But
years.
the one that you just,
The Lower Basin Subcommittee had began its work in this past February.
And then-
And their goal was to be done in a year with making recommendations and getting consensus on what the best path forward was for the most amount of people. So
Does it make sense? And if we identify these goals and want to be on those goals, does it make sense for Joe to basically fill in the timeline and the measure of success that we can help with, or him to take the first stab at it, and then we can review it?
I think
That
so.
makes sense for us to give.
And don't think the timeline is going to be like a dead stop. Again, it's managing the process. It's just directional.
As Bob mentioned a little earlier, some of it's going to be beyond my control.
Right.
I'm
That's
at
why
all
it's
the lower
directional.
basin subcommittee meetings. I'll be at all the task force
I
meetings.
have an answer, but I can't go back to him.
But there's 18 other communities involved at some level.
No,
or other,
yeah.
And we got to get all of them
Maybe
on the
call
same
it,
page.
year one is a due diligence process. There's really no end goal. It's identifying the problem statement.
What the
So
status is.
that is so the
Challenge.
NSWRTF is the task force,
Right, and then part of a smaller subset of that task force is the lower basin subcommittee.
Okay, so when you change my warning here to the lower basin subcommittee,
Yep.
when I put work with task force, I meant that's what I was referring to.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Could we add like some sort of like artifact to that of like, because my issue is that like I've been telling that I get questions from the community all the time about what's the deal with the water, and I say we're working on it. There's a task force, we're working on it, but I don't have any concrete. Like, say out of this task force we get some sort of recommendation or step. Can we have like a graphic that's created or like a report or PowerPoint or memo or whatever it may
So,
be?
yeah.
and we can then distribute and say here's what's happened so far this year.
Absolutely. I think at the August 4th meeting, I provided, kind of a draft of an update from the lower basin subcommittee.
Yeah, that was
in your packets. It hasn't been finalized yet. It'll likely be finalized at our next meeting next week. I don't know that there's any significant changes to the draft. Their goal is for us to be cranking those out after our meetings so that we can all be coming back to our member communities. I can be coming back here while Steve Poulos goes to Wenham and Jill goes to Danvers, and we're all saying the same thing to our boards and committees, so that we're all learning about we're all learning.
Yeah, so work to educate the public about the town's ongoing efforts to stabilize water resources, which you're talking about, for the community, and educate them on the current state and challenges. I think we keep on working on something, but then all of a sudden we say, oh, we have a water ban.
Yeah.
It's like, why?
It may be something that the board wants us to have a special meeting for in late September, early October, just an extra select board meeting. If I hold on a different night, focused just to talk about water issues. I can potentially see if somebody from the task force wants to come in and give people an update. Hey, we can let the public and let them hear.
I hope it rains tonight. Looks like it might rain tonight.
I know, fill up the basins.
The Switch River watershed, I went to their yearly,
And they're a member of the task force. They're on the subcommittee
yeah,
with me.
and they had, speaking of graphics, they had great graphics. And they've done a lot of concrete work to really show, and they're not huge things, but they're measurable things, and they're significant in the sense that they've made a difference. So maybe inviting them to a meeting might be a good plan.
Their new director, Erin, has been a joy to work with. She and I worked on kind of the goal setting measuring subcommittee last year together, and I have a great working relationship with her. So was great.
Like water's a good example that at some point I'm imagining as well out of this, just like the last time we didn't make an upgrade, is that there's some sort of whether it's to a select board, or if it's that big, it does need to go to a town vote. If that's something that we foresee, is it? I guess it's like it's a big question.
Yeah, and the last one went in front of the town.
Yeah. Okay.
Every time you spend money, it's going to run town. But
I was just like,
we're not. But I mean, Joe will tell you, if we go to the town, it probably would be for 4. I mean, it has to be planned first. That's probably, we're not talking in the next year. It's just a 4 or 5 year.
Yeah.
I think that's good though. I think that's where it's just sort of like we let people know.
Right.
It's like, hey, at some point in time,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years, this is going to come before the town. Right now, there are all these committees and task forces working through all of the options.
Right.
And then eventually that's going to get winnowed down to a kind of up-down vote. And then there'll be like a real diligence period around the techno-economic analysis of it. That's going to take, several years, and then it'll come before us as or maybe that, I don't know when the vote would be, but
Yeah.
having them be able to really visualize and understand the whole process.
The votes in front of town meetings may come in less than 5 years.
Yeah.
We'll be asking the board to vote and, support a direction here, like I said, by February, this coming February, and that'll kind of set us on a path that I'll develop cost models and, who's involved, who's not involved, timelines for how long it takes to connect people, what the method of connection is, what the water sources will be. We're working through all that now, and it's there's a ton of information. We have competing interests, right? You have the Salem Beverly Water Supply Board that is a lot of need to make improvements to their plan and wants to be able to share those improvements across a larger customer base. But their water source is the same water source as ours is. And so they can't be the sole solution. So it's getting them to work, play nicely with MWRA, which has access to a much larger water supply that could be extended up here through some kind of a partnership or something. We don't know. We're not putting parameters on what that is. But the point is both entities are at the table with us talking about that. And that's been important because it wasn't going on before.
The NWRA is also.
NWRA has representatives at all of our meetings. And they are talking.
Everybody on that task force, I'm sure, is aware of the issues with the NWRA, their lawful redundancy, their lack of infrastructure, and the astronomical cost.
Well, their original proposal that they did in a report was not to partner with anybody else or rebuild existing systems. It was to just run new pipes and connect people that way. And that was extremely expensive and wouldn't provide redundancy. So we're hoping that, we're expecting that given the way that was received, we're expecting that MWRA is participating and they say they are. And all particular on us to find a way forward. So.
Okay, just interesting comments because I've read their yearly reports and they didn't even have the North Shore as a priorities. They were thinking more Western Massachusetts as their priority for expanding. But I'm not privy to everything that the task force is doing there. They've done a great job so far. Bruce Tarr has been involved in that since its inception, and he really understands the whole process. I just worry, as I said, that we're not looking at the cost. You can look at the concept; it doesn't not sound peachy dandy, but we do have to think about the costs and how much realistically we're going to be able to do, and is there a smaller option, a less expensive option? I don't know.
Yeah, understand.
So I think mapping that out, this is like what I've looked at, my comments are like road mapping, and like what we're communicating as well to the public is like when we're doing options appraisals and looking, do we go like small, medium, large, or, do we make these additional provisions from water quality or reliability, redundancy perspectives, like what types of options are being considered and why, and then when doors are closing, like, so that's called like one-way doors, right? It's like, we have this many options, we carried this many through. Now we went from 7 scenarios down to 3. And then we went from 3 down to 2, and then 2 to 1, and that's the one that we're voting on, let's say. Or the first vote is just to take us from 7 to 3 options. Like really helping kind of like map that out so that people can understand as things are being taken off the table and like what it was and when it was, because then there's an aspect for us, to be able to refer back to that 2 to 3 years down the road to say, like, you're right, that is a good idea. And they did look at that idea, and we kind of have that, at our fingertips as well to show people that the diligence has been done, that we've tried to be as considerate as possible around making the most economical decision to have the most benefit.
And makes sense, but keep in mind, we're not going to be making the decision.
That's right. Yeah, it's like part of it too is for us to call out
making decisions.
You're basically making a decision about whether you want to join in on the solution.
We're going to make sure whether we join or don't join.
And I think that's
the perfect thing. That's like we're not. If we want to join, we're going to be told. And Joe's part of the committee, but we're one of how many? 18.
There's 18 parties at the table. I think it's 11 communities.
We're a little challenging because Joe's going to be our representative there, but this is going to be. Then all these things get narrowed down, but none of us are at the table.
That's right. That's fine too. And I think it's making it clear too. Like, we get some say, but the only say we get is whether we're in or out. That's fine.
Yeah.
But it's about communicating that and bringing people along as well, so we can bring it back and say, like, it's trending in a direction, and that we believe as a board, based on the economics and the options that have been discounted and the ones that are moving forward, that like this is looking like something we should be committing to or not.
The report's going to be a little bit like 3A. It's going to be like this. We have to do. It's now law. You do it or don't do it. Frank's consequence if you don't. Yeah. So it's better, like you said, get out of it now.
Stay in front of it so we can map out the process and let people know what our options are.
But Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in terms of transparency, what costs and challenges, I think that sometimes we, as a, not necessarily just us, but sometimes when you generally would like to see something happen, we go down a path and we go down a rose-colored path, and then residents, our constituents, expect us to be able to deliver on that. And a lot of times we haven't provided all the information, and that would worry me, because I think you hear about it in a cell tower, right? We got a cell tower, why isn't it perfect? And people get frustrated. And so I really would vote for a lot of transparency and cost, because people have already been saying, oh, the state will pay for this, the state will pay for that. Well, do you know, that's not necessarily true. I know in Ipswich, they just built a new water treatment plant because theirs was obsolete, and they have a lot of new residents to town. Well, I can only tell you just my little microcosm of experience. One of the barns where we had our 3 horses, our water bill was $20 a month. And in May of this year, it went up to $140 a month. That's an astronomical increase. And so did everybody know it was going to be that expensive, and what would the other options have been? So that's really important to me, that we really realistically communicate what will happen with each of these potential solutions.
Sometimes it is going to be a lot of money, but I think it's important we show our diligence that we looked at options. You looked at plugging into Manchester. We've looked at, and we've narrowed it down for better quality, more quantity, and cost effective.
Joe,
It shows we had a work in progress.
Right, exactly.
the rate structures, right?
Yeah.
You know, of like, well, is it? And my understanding, I just sat next to me on the train from Ipswich, and they were telling me about the same phenomenon. Sort of like that the rates actually go up in the summertime. That's like, oh, if you exceed a certain volume, does it then start to ratchet up, which is what they do in the American Southwest, where it's desert, you know? And they said, well, no, it just goes up flat, like for his particular residential use. So I don't know if there were different tiers, you know, for residential and commercial, or what their rate structure was. But for any of these deals like that, that's important to understand. You know, if
They may have,
Keep in mind right now, I think right now.
I'm just talking.
We're not solving now.
we're getting
I was
Ipswich may have implemented peak pricing.
But keep in mind that we don't pay for our water. Our water is free. We pay to process it and distribute it. We don't actually pay for the water.
Yeah.
So our cost to distribute water is the same cost whether we distribute 1 gallon or 1,000,000 gallons.
yeah,
So the more we distribute, the cheaper it is. So the more you get people to be water efficient, use less water, guess what happens? Our rates go up.
The rate goes up, but the overall dollar amount.
But the over,
That's
we need
stays
that.
the same.
We need that $1 million to run our water plant. No matter how much we spend. So we have internet economics to Hamilton right now. We don't actually pay for our water. We pay to process it and distribute it, which is the same cost. We have to have the same pipes and the same, no matter how. So it's a little. The only thing that goes up, maybe we have to buy the filtration media,
Filtration media when we
Yeah,
have
you
to renew
pay,
it.
you pay for more chemicals.
but we don't pay for that for water. So,
But it's
so
it
when
is
we
a
do
fixed.
start paying for water, it's going to be a much. It's going to be a very different.
the rate structure
process,
for which
right?
if we're paying like kind of wholesale rates versus commercial rates, it's sort of like, well, what are we buying it at? And then like if there's 14 or I don't know, I mean, 18 different like municipalities who are trying to like get into this network, it's important for all of them as well to have to really understand what that rate structure looks like. You know, whether it's like deep rates, you know, for the dry months, and then different ratchets based on the number of people in the households. That's an important aspect of it.
But we all agree this is a big one. And
so-
you psyched you're in on it. You know what was effective? I think
It's been my goal.
No, you're
it was
a
one
part
of
of
the
the
first goals
task
given to me
force.
when I got hired here. So.
I think it's the solution, to be
So
honest
you
with you.
think
But
within. So yeah, so once again, love the dialogue. We got 30 things to go through. So
yeah, we're going way
That's
too
a big
deep.
one, though,
This is
too.
not.
That's a big
This
one.
is
We
an
need to
issue.
get too far into detail, but I think
This
if
is
we
like
had-
public
if we
comment.
had 3 goals, it's continue to work with the task force, right?
Yeah.
With deliverables, and I think we talked about we want to have deliverables that we can share with the community on transparency on really simple graphics or some sort. We want you to think about how we communicate that stuff out to the town, both our current state and current jobs as well as what the future, and then this lower base and task force and about what that what that means for options and
Yep.
challenges and whatnot. So, cell phones number 2. So this one has always been on our list because we always want that third cell phone tower. We've always told people we needed 3 cell phone towers. We have 2.
We have one, right? On town.
We have one private one over in.
Yeah. But I think our goal has always been to have 2 public ones, right? Which I think this is one that we'll execute on in the next 12 months. So this is a big one.
So we're
This
actually
is one.
planning a site walk with Everest.
Okay.
so we-
Everest is preparing a special permit application for the planning board to locate the second tower that they were granted the option on and signed the lease for in 2016. So we're going to be site walking it. The issue was that the site on the public safety property that was designated but delegated into the lease agreement. Previously, they hadn't, I wasn't here, I don't know, it was 2016, but evidently they didn't do their due diligence to find out what was in the ground. There's a ton of infrastructure, drainage, and otherwise at the back of the public safety property. So locating a cell tower, they have to dig 20 feet down to build the base that the monopole sits on. So they can't locate it there. They're looking for another site another spot on the public safety property to locate it at.
Okay.
And so we're going to site walk it. Trying to do it with Bill.
25th or 6th.
The 25th or 26th. They haven't got back to me. I'll
So
take
we
them again
think,
tomorrow.
we can change this goal to within the next 12 months.
Well, I mean, when you have this time frame,
Contract
we
for
can say we've got a couple things. It's a dual path. We've got, maximizing. I like how you brought that on the carrier, on the existing pole, right?
Yeah.
And we've got a buy, keep or sell type of thing going on. But we've also got now a second site with interest. That means other carriers want to come here, so we could get both, with one swoop. So Joe and I have been really talking about how do we kind of make sure we leverage our asset that we have and a new one they need.
Oh, so
Did you
one
see the
thing-
email with
so-
Lisa today?
What's that?
Did you see the emails with Lisa?
Yeah. Yeah.
So first goal is a second tower.
Yep.
Third tower down, but a second public
Yeah.
tower.
Yeah.
Cover up. Number 2 is monetize those however we do, whether we sell the leads, whether we just get more carriers on it, however that works. And the third one was I think Rosemary had somebody put this on there, but basically yearly updates like coverage maps. Like we get coverage maps during the application process, but it'd be great if they just did them on a regular basis. Just so,
They don't give those out
They
easily. No, just because then you're showing
you
your
know
cards.
people.
What?
You know people.
Oh no, yeah, but each carrier we could go on their website and do it. But I don't know what good that does us. But other than like once we get the tower, we'll know our weak spots. Then we
But I
do it.
mean,
But the
as
carriers
a
are going to
public service. Somebody moves to town,
Yeah.
and they say, "Hey, they come to town hall, Joe. What kind of cell phone? What carrier should I get?" We don't give them the recommendation. We don't probably want to move up that, but wouldn't it be good if we had that
We
information?
should never do
Well,
that.
I
well,
know.
no,
But why shouldn't we? If we say, "Hey,
It's not our job. We talked about controllables and not. What are we going to tell them what milk to buy at Crosby's? I mean, it's.
yeah, but that's not like it is a coverage issue.
It's not, but it's not a public service. So I get what you're saying, and
Yeah.
we could, you let the town run that through Facebook or social media and tell you. But I don't think we ever want to be in a position where we're pitting carriers
We
against
don't want to do
carriers.
that. We want to give people information for them to make their own decisions.
I also
And
think
how do
that,
they get that information?
and Bill could tell me if I'm wrong, but my feeling and my understanding is that we can build the second one here, but until or unless Wenham pulls the trigger and actually builds a tower in their town,
Yeah,
we're going to be weak in this end because there's nothing else here
yeah.
to bounce
Their
it off.
closest
It's-
is in the tower at the church.
right. So
So they
that's
might
not
not
real.
But to your point, I think what we could do is working with Everest on this, have them give us an RF map, and then know from theirs because they will study.
Well, they
every
need- they'll need it
carrier.
for the
They're not a
application.
carrier,
They'll-
and then
they'll
we'll
need
know
it
our
for-
weak spots.
They'll need the coverage map for the application anyway.
Yep.
And then
So
that
we'll
was
get
number
those.
3 for me was sort of how do we get up to, and then number 4 was like there's a lot I think can go away if we know that we're getting a second tower is other technologies. Do we need to be proactive with looking at other technologies like the telephone pole down
Yeah.
1A or mini
Mesh
towers
system.
or
We
whatnot?
talked
Is that
about
something
that.
mesh? Is that something we
I
should?
think it goes away, but I don't think we rule that out. Your downtown in-building coverage might need a booster, and we can talk with these guys when they do that to say we want you to breathe it through our town and make sure the milk section of Crosby is coverage because I can never even text my wife. What do we need?
Can I?
I'm using milk
ask,
as my example today,
Where
but I think that's a good one, and I think this is going to be an actionable one. Sorry. Go ahead, Dorsey.
I'm sorry. I thought you're finished. Just a question. Where are we considering for this second public tower?
that's the reason for the sidewalk to walk and.
Walk where?
It's here, well, it's already in the
It's
agreement
the
that
public-
they got.
It's on the
This
land,
area's
it's on the
already
land
been
that's
agreed.
owned by the public safety building. It's on the land that's owned by the public safety
Okay,
building.
somewhere in the public.
Somewhere in the
okay.
public safety.
So you're gonna float the balloons up and
We have to do all that stuff.
see how high they go and how high the tower is and make sure the neighbors can't see. Like, we'll have to go through that whole
Oh, I
process.
remember the balloon.
Yeah.
But in the initial agreement, I think they already got this area.
Yeah, this area is already,
This is
already
already
part
been-
of the lease and.
I don't think this has to go to town meeting.
Let's be fully transparent. The thing that slowed down the process last time was the complaints about its impact on the historic district.
Okay.
Even though it wasn't actually in the historic district.
You could see it from the historic district.
We are nowhere near the historic district.
Yeah.
The town has previously already authorized this to a town meeting. They've already previously signed a lease. We need to locate the tower somewhere where it will work and where it won't interrupt or interfere with existing infrastructure. So there's gonna be, it's a special permit process still, but there's gonna be less things we can do to say no.
The challenge that will
And we
happen
don't, and I don't
is the
think any of
school.
us wants to be in that position.
The school, but the school will cause it, not the school district, the school will raise,
School, having the school building there will raise the alarm. And I think that will largely depend on what happens on September 15th.
that will definitely come into play, but plenty of towers have gone next to schools, so.
I think we got our 4 that we're gonna put out there.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I added COA as a goal in terms of sort of the thing kind of runs because it had good people running it, but we don't really pay attention to it in town. So maybe it's
I'm gonna push back on that a little. I mean, look, I talked to,
They're one of the groups we did hear from this year.
I talked to Teresa probably almost more than any
but
department.
we don't but we don't.
I understand.
Into it.
I understand.
So she's one of the only ones we did hear from. The challenge, to Rosie's point, is the percent of the budget that goes to the size of the population.
And we're
That's the
we're trying to make adjustments there. We've now, when Tim retired, remember, I asked for additional funding in this current year's budget to be able to add a halftime admin. Because Tim decided to retire, we pivoted and we put those 2 positions together. And now, in addition to having Teresa here full-time, we have a full-time person that is in programs and admin. So there are 2 full-time people.
She's 32.
Right, and she needs to learn, but we spent the last 3 months trying to hire people. We had interviewed and offered the position to 2 other people who declined it. I think Hannah is gonna work out. She's young, yes, but she's got a ton of energy. My understanding is when Teresa got into this field, she was very much like Hannah, because when Teresa got into that field in her previous position, she was also young and right out of college. And, she spent 12, 14 years there before coming here. So I think that's not a bad thing necessarily. Yes, it's new, it's early, but we are making an effort to put more resources here. And the hiring process took a little bit of time, but we got there.
Do we want to have on your goals, the primary
Yeah,
goals?
I
you
think
wanna
that there's
have?
still other things we need to do, sure. And
And then what about regionalizing it with whatever? Is that something that we want to
It's-
talk about or not talk about this year?
We'll leverage with it. I mean, what
so
shared
I talk to
services
Steve
can we
Poulos
do?
about it every year,
Like a
it's
van.
whether or not he wants to, his position's different from mine.
It's part of improving services, right? I mean,
So we talk about it every year, but that it takes 2 to tango,
yeah.
as we say. And normally I'd say, if Wenham didn't want to participate in a regionalized effort, I could pivot to another town. But on the COA front, there's not really anybody else we could pivot to. We'd be swallowed up by Ipswich, and it's too far away. Essex is too far away. It's either Wenham or nobody. And until they want to dance, we really don't have a partner.
They do share a lot of programs. though.
We do, and
And it's getting better.
and it's getting better. And so now I'm really gently nudging them. Hey, we're doing all this program stuff together. Hey, what about getting some use of your van? Or hey, I heard that you want to write a grant and get a new van and upgrade your van. I'll write a letter of support if we can work out some ability for Hamilton residents to take advantage of that a couple times a week too. So we're talking, but until, like I said, until they're ready to commit to something, I can't push it by
I'll
myself.
change the wording to regionalize. I want to say we'll see collaborating with them.
service.
That's good.
Yeah, collaborating shared services. Go.
And is it, I'm asking you, Joe, because I do think there needs to be a spotlight, but is it fair to just say COA, or should there be some type of department support? Because we've heard things, we had the dispatch crew come in and they talked a little bit, and we've heard some things on fire and others. Like, is this calling out one and we should only do that, or should this be a general category on, department services and support?
I mean,
I'm asking.
it should be a general category on all departments,
Right.
but But Rosie's right, and I've acknowledged it each of the last 2 or 3 years. Like, it's the smallest department by spend in the town, and it serves, a population almost, well, it's like 24%. But yeah, it's a good portion of our population, and they're the people that deserve our attention and us taking care of them. So we need to make investments there. It's how you balance those things.
Right.
And
Okay.
so.
All right. Town hall. I added some to this one, but I think everybody obviously wants to see town hall completed on time, on budget, and that will happen.
You said it that way, isn't it?
Yeah, that's
Headed that way.
And so we should.
Walls
be
are going up. Drywall's going up this week. This interior office is getting walls. It's looking.
So a year from now,
Walked
we'll be
it
having
today.
this
It was
meeting
beautiful.
at,
In our fancy new room.
This time next year, we should be moved in, and you should be meeting in the new memorial
So,
space.
so
upstairs.
I added two things, right, for your goal. Obviously, a move plan. Like, I'm not sure. Like, I know you did you did a really good job moving. I thought you did a really good job, a really creative job moving everybody to
Yeah,
Pat.
I
And I
agree.
think part of the chemistry when you go there and have your is that I think that created some synergy. I think we're better. We're better in my opinion, right? It seems to be better chemistry there than was. So it's how do we take that chemistry back? So I
How do you move that?
So how do we move it back?
chemistry
Because I think
back
that
to the new
you have an
stuff.
opportunity really to reset town hall, right? In terms of
Yeah.
initiatives, systems, whatever you want to reset. So what bigger picture things are we move? I don't want to just move back business as usual. I want to move back better. So I'm trying to challenge you to how can when we move back into town hall, are we going to operate better than we've ever operated before? Not just by architecture and space and new systems, but how do we operate better? So I don't have an answer to that, but that's one of the goals I would put to you is how can we make it a better experience?
So I think that you were right. I think one of the things that happened when we moved out to Pat Homestead was, people who've done things like the military or signed up to do something really hard with a group of people. When you enter that thing
I do it.
with other people, you kind of build a camaraderie because it's a shared experience that nobody else outside of your group has.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of people went over to Pat Homestead with a little trepidation, a little bit like, what's this going to be like? And they just decided to kind of band together, and they're buckling down and we've added some new blood in. We've had some people leave, and we've had to replace them. We had some promotions, and so we had to backfill behind the people we promoted up, and there's a lot of good new young energy in there, which has been great as well. So those things have combined to make the place a lot more dynamic than it was at Town Hall. I think that we're going to be able to build on the excitement of going back to Town Halls as much as all of our staff loves being out there. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
They also all recognize,
It's a little
kinda
stuffy.
it's a little cold in the winter. It's a little warm in the summer. It's not an office building, right?
Yeah.
And there's already starting to be we've already walked them through the building once when things were just framed. We'll get here in the next week or two. Now that all the walls are insulated and the drywall is going up, we'll get them in again to see where it's going. Let their minds start to play with things. We're going to hopefully at Monday. It's not on the agenda, but hopefully Monday I'll be able to bring during reports at the beginning some samples. Where Tim and I were talking, it's the architect's job to pick colors for the new building, but and he's focused very much on historically accurate colors. But we said to the architect, hey, would you mind if we kind of ran a very short contest, give us the 2 or 3 colors that you're thinking about working with, and we'll put out a poll townwide and tell everybody
Fun.
you got 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks to vote for your favorite color,
That's
and the color that gets the most clicks is the one that we're going to go with. So we're going to do some kind of
That's a great
poll, and we'll have hopefully color samples at the meeting on Monday, and we'll launch it, and they'll have people in town will have 2 weeks to vote on colors, and I'll encourage all my staff to vote for a color. You can only vote once, but vote for color because you're going to look at it all the time. So
Yeah,
you
exactly.
by all means get in and have a say on what color you want to be looking at for the rest of your municipal career in Hamilton. So
A diverse set of colors, or it's
gonna be hot
different
pink.
colors of white.
no. They're slightly different colors. There's a tan, there's a green, there's some different things. We're planning to kind of go with a kind of a cool gray some main walls in the offices, but in the spaces in the hallways and the meeting rooms. So we want to have I like it, an accent color. So we're looking for something historic. I know people's knee-jerk reaction when you see the Hamilton Wenham high school colors. You think, oh, they're going to do blue. Well, blue wasn't a historic color for town halls at the time. It wasn't something that was in Hamilton's thinking. So we're gonna give you a set of colors that are historically accurate, things that would have been used when the building was built, and we'll get our votes on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where, where are we at with digitization?
Can we talk about something else?
Is that something that we need to still have on our town goal?
Yeah, it's going to take a lot of it's actually physically going to take a lot of effort. We've got a software program that we already own that I need to renew the service contract on, and we need to do some more training on. But it really is going to require us getting some other additional help to figure out how to start moving everybody in that direction.
Corinne has a great intern for the center.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah,
She's
she
really
is.
smart. So we need to find a way to put the effort in to get that stuff rolled out, because as Corinne says, it needs a champion.
Is there 2 parts? Is it getting the old stuff done and then
It's getting the new stuff. So we largely have the equipment that once we determine what the kind of format for forms should look like and how you file it all and have a kind of a naming convention in your system so you can find everything. You can just, it's easy. We've got scanners and stuff that we can have somebody on staff, or we can go out and look for high school or college interns to spend the summer scanning the stuff for us. But it's getting that other stuff done, getting all the system developed so that it's easy to pay a college kid minimum wage to just scan stuff and name it,
But so the goal wasn't to get it done before we move back in.
Well, it was a goal, but
It was a goal.
I'm starting to feel like it may have been too lofty a goal. It's without a large infusion of cash, it would have been really difficult. I mean, we could have spent.
Did we leave a lot of records there during construction?
We've got records that are in storage, out of the building to be out of harm's way, but in storage. And
So the question is, do we move them back?
Or do we?
Oh, not
Well,
for storage costs.
We don't want to pay for storage
we
costs,
digitize?
but
That's what I did. We did try to move back.
Move them back virtually. is
So
my
let me
point. I mean, that
that's
would
a
make
good
sense.
question. Let me add that. Let's add that to the town hall. What is the process?
I just added it to my notes. And can you come up with a budget for what it would take? I don't know if you know that, but it's like a intern or a college.
It'll be easier to get a budget now because we have all the records we want to digitize in one place, so we can bring it.
That's what I
say,
think.
This is what we want to do. You tell us how long it'll take to do this.
Okay.
So that'll be easier. Before it was all throughout the building. It's really hard to quantify, so it should be easier.
But then moving forward,
everything
is part
has
of
to
the
go
process.
into an electronic
Yeah.
format right away.
right?
That you can print out if you want, but we need to get everybody used to working in an electronic environment instead of a paper environment.
Right.
Which in some ways they're doing already, but we just need to make it fiction.
All right, so I'll put that on there. Digitization plan.
Okay.
We got 3A MBTA zoning.
I think that can come off.
The only thing I had on there was, and these are day-to-day activities, not really goals, but one is just, and that one was for Rosemary, but just continue to track legal cases, just to be up to date with what's going on around us, right?
We'd always do that. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with the Marbleheads and Miltons and towns that just continue to exist. I was talking to Mike here in Boxford just the other night. He reached out to me via text. I was home enjoying my anniversary and watching my wedding video for the first time.
Congratulations.
And he was at a meeting in Boxford with his board, trying to talk through how they were going to pass 3A because they have until December, and it's going to be as uphill a battle there as it was here, if not more. They don't have a T-stop there in adjacent communities, so there's a lot more resistance to it there.
So is there anything outstanding on that for us filing, registering, certification?
We've done everything we
That
need
was
to
my
do.
next
We're
one.
waiting to hear back from the state. What I've been told is that a lot of the
Yeah, there's fruit flies in here.
a lot of the
Fine, spray in the budget.
a lot of the plans that have been approved so far have been given what they're calling interim approval, which means that there's one or two things they want you to work on, but they're not giving you a deadline to work on them. They're just saying, these are things we noticed that we'd like you to address at some point. But they're saying that, for purposes of qualifying for grants and of being in compliance, you've met what we asked you to do at this point. We're not going to bother you about it right now. I don't think that will happen until everybody is at some form of compliance. Then they'll go back and try to identify. I think that if I was the state, what I would do is okay, you've got 107 communities that have this. You got 100 communities that have the same note. Well, let's work on getting everybody to figure out how to get that note out of their file by X date, and then work at the next one. There's only 60 communities that have this note. Let's get that addressed in the 60 communities. But I think it's better for them if they just do it in an ordered way. You know, it doesn't create additional work for them, and it won't create outcry like the initial law had. So they're going to give us some kind of interim approval, or and say these are the notes we're eventually going to have you work on, which I think they've already telegraphed. They didn't have very many notes for us when they did their initial review of us. We had far fewer notes than many of KP Law's other member communities had. So I think that's a good news for us.
Didn't they also approve Wenham sort of no-build zones? Have they approved that? I heard that they did.
I wasn't aware that they'd approved Wenham's plan at all yet, but I think that like we did, we sought an opinion from EOHLC before we took a vote on it, and I think HLC said, yeah, we don't have a problem with that. But then what happens when the AG looks at it? Do they have a problem? So that's the second level of kind of signing off on it. So
I don't think AG is going to run any more fights.
hoping.
I think.
I'm hoping. I love that. That'd be great. So I get some more water.
Because I think the more slack they became about their demands, the more compliance they found within the communities.
The other thing I had on here for the MBTA was just training, educating. Like, we have this new, we have this 2 new bylaws, right? We have the form-based. And I think we need to get some workshops or something. I had on here some sort of goal-based that you're gonna educate and train us on what it means. Not that we want to promote more development.
So I want to be careful not to tread on the planning board's toes. We actually had an email from Emil Dahlquist on behalf of the planning board today. They discussed it at their last meeting. They've asked me if there'd be an opportunity to have UTIL help them with something, and then they want to create a flow chart for people. How do you use the form-based code and do that? So I got to talk it over with Wendy and see where we get the money to pay for something like that. But if we can afford it, I'll give them a couple more hours of UTIL's time to kind of help them finish that off, and then we'll get that. So I'll if you could put it in here as a note for me to follow up on, that'd be great. But I don't want it to be my goal because it's the planning board's, and they're already looking to take it on. So I don't want to step on their toes. They're
All right. Next one I had was communication. We talked about this,
On
but
this,
sorry, go ahead.
on the planning board and the training, kind of like what are those next steps you're going to be having the CBA? I mean, so it's like staffing boards, but just making sure that they're pretty integrated into the thinking there. So a lot of times,
Yeah. So Joe, who does ZBA fall under?
they're separate. They're appointed. CBAs are appointed by you.
Right.
So exactly, they report to you, and their staff is the same as the planning board staff. It's Mark and Alicia. So, that's the spot to try to kind of
Well, Mark falls under you.
yeah.
So it's just, so I think it still falls under sort of, I would say the goal here is that you should make sure that your staff is properly educating and training and communicating what these 2 bylaws mean, how to use them.
Yep.
that integration between the planning board and the CBA is like super critical. If there's any special permits or things like that, it goes go to ZBA, and that's where it's like if somebody's doing something, they're the first ones trying to apply and understand, form-based codes like that might fall at ZBA's doorstep, not the planning board's doorstep in terms of implementation. And so,
So the code's there, and it tells people what they're supposed to do. As long as you're complying with the code, you don't need anything. You just go and get your building. You go to the building inspector and get your permit based on following the code.
Yeah.
If you need to go outside of what the code says, you need a variance, and then you go to ZBA.
yeah.
And so,
Or they go to ZBA with a special permit, and so that's where I think there's
most of the special. I will go back and look at this.
Right, right.
I thought a lot of the special permits that have been granted in zoning lately have been for planning board special permits.
Bring that many ZBA stuff permits out.
Yeah, you know when I went to the a ZBA meeting, and I was surprised that there was a special permit for a tear down on Maple Street, and it was still within the setbacks, but it was going to be and it was a little bit larger than the house that was there, and I was surprised, and I asked Marnie about that. I said, "Why is that on the ZBA for special permit?" And she kind of gave me an answer that didn't satisfy me entirely, but I know that there's still some overlap.
There's that chart.
The chart,
expensive
I know,
chart, so
right,
I don't
right,
remember. I
right.
don't know it changed
It's right
every
by
time.
my house, and so I've spent a lot of time
Oh,
work
yeah.
this week about
Yeah.
it. So I
Yeah.
kind of have been brushing up for the past couple of weeks on this, and it's a
Yeah, but
I don't
Maple,
want broadcast
but
like
Maple
that.
Street, because
Loopholes,
Maple
but
Street's
it's-
not in the downtown, but Maple Street's not in the new zone.
No,
No,
no.
it's-
So-
but I'm just
The new
suggesting
zoning
like
is-
that's different because we're
Yeah.
outside of the
Yeah.
new zoning. However, when you start to apply what exists in our zoning bylaws to the new zoning districts, and so anyway, I'll talk to Marnie separately as well about maybe some potential edits for an April town meetings. But I do think that just based on what I've read, I'm
So-
suggesting that the ZBA gets us a lot
I
of
think we
training
also
on
want-
implementation.
Yeah, I think we also want to be careful, like ZBAs are set up for a reason, there's.
Yeah,
you're not-
exactly. I'm
planning
we're walking
board-
in territory that isn't ours.
The planning
I
board,
mean, you have a personal interest in it. I see why you're doing it, but that's
No,
not
I'm
this
just
board.
saying. Well, they
Well,
they would
the
want
planning
to
board
have
proposes-
that
So,
training.
Right,
so
right.
that's
the
how I
planning board
know.
proposes
Right.
zoning.
Yeah, no, I know,
And
but
does the
he's
planning
not
for the
Mark and
town
asking
in
stuff
advance.
because
Planning board
Okay,
proposes
right,
zoning
I
and
know
does,
what you're
does the planning for the town in
Right.
advance, and then the building inspector enforces it.
Yeah.
And if you need to go outside of that zoning,
Yeah.
it's supposed to go to ZBA.
That's
The
right.
board that sets the zoning isn't supposed to be the arbiter of whether or not you get to go outside the zoning. That's supposed to be with a separate board. That's the way state law has it set up. So we need to be careful why we keep allowing special permits to go to the planning board. Some of those should be going to the ZBA.
I understand that.
So-
And I think that they should. And everything that I read says it goes to the ZBA. What I'm saying is that we have a brand new code, and
We just wanna make sure everybody-
there's a zoning bylaw
Yep.
that's going to have a bunch of new districts and new rules to be followed. And it'll be very important for the ZBA to understand the intent and spirit in which
Yeah.
the entire new zoning bylaw has been written, so that they are applying it in its entirety and not potentially giving special carve outs when someone is maybe playing some games.
so that hasn't happened already through the process. Is they weren't involved with the planning board.
I
I would hope that is the case. I mean,
I don't think they've been trained.
that's
It's educated.
it's-
Nobody
Like I
has.
said, no.
It's
Yeah.
still-
It still
So
hasn't
we
even
do-
been approved by the state, so we're not,
That's what I'm saying. We do need to have a workshop
Yeah.
training.
Okay.
So you're gonna
We'll-
reach
we'll
out
do
to
that.
UTL,
Job training. Yep.
develop a flip chart,
That's a
and
very
then
good
everybody comes.
I would agree.
Not my own interest, but the
While
interest
we're
of the
making,
good people who
not
are
to get us off track, I know Bill has now 25 of these left to get to. Not to get us off track, I will just give you all a heads up. ZBA has received a Chapter 40B application
For which property?
for 133 assets.
September.
Tobacco, what? So you-
And
was surprised there, right?
they agreed yesterday to allow us to delay the start of the hearing until October. So it'll, the hearing will start in October now.
Oh, okay, because it was.
We had,
September 3rd.
well, based on the window from when the application was received, we needed to act by September 3rd, or it would have been constructively.
Same owners?
But, yes, the same project.
Same project, right?
Same project.
Yeah, it was
And-
just a year or so.
So.
It's same number of units. Do you know?
Same number of
Do we
units.
have
Yeah.
time to
Oh,
circle
that'd
back
be
to
more
this at our
units.
next meeting?
No, 59.
No, but they have the ability to go more units. They go 40 feet, so I'm glad that they're not.
Well, I think there might be physical restraints on the.
I think it's cost restraint, so what they'd have to do to get the site that way, they don't gotta do that much blasting. But in any case, yeah. In any case, it comes, when away to come back,
Well, it was. It's been a lot of money.
it's back.
Yeah, you definitely said that. But it's not if, it's when, right?
Right, exactly.
All right.
I had somebody tell me I was crazy, that was gone for good, and I was like, okay, that's
No,
what you
no
think.
way.
I'm not gonna argue with you.
Too much money. Communication, community outreach. This has been is always on here. It's always a goal. Improve social media. And I just don't know what that. Is that something that Joe you're gonna do? But it's get somebody in town do it, or do we need to hire somebody, or what we? But I feel like a lot of us get information on social media, and I don't see it from. It's not on my metrics. I don't see it enough.
So, now that we kind of got through the tough stuff for the summer,
Yeah.
I was planning to have, we've got Cindy coordinating more of this. She has a background in media relations and communications. from her previous role at Graydon College for years. And that's the stuff from this job that really excites her. So I'm looking forward to having her come in before the board sometime in September, October, and kind of give you an update on what we've been doing differently, what the metrics say, how we're trying to change the way we initiate posts so that we get more traffic to them and more people following that traffic then to the website to get more information.
I mean, a lot of times people struggle with content, but I think our content's there. We have the information, just how to put it up.
Right.
Well, we're also going to look at potentially, so the current website, we've done a good deal of work to improve it. I still think that
It's got much better.
it's gotten much better, but it's still,
That's like 2-3 years
still
ago.
difficult.
So much better.
It's still difficult compared to others. A company called Civic Plus has really been taking over that space in terms of municipal websites in Massachusetts. I was just on a couple of other towns that just recently went to Civic Plus websites, including one of them, and they're much easier to navigate than our site is. There might need to be some cost involved, but the website we have through Sterling was last updated in 2016 or 17. Was Michael, my predecessor's pet project. So we're coming up on 10 years now with this site, and they haven't been able to grow that end of their business. Sterling does a lot of technology stuff. They haven't really grown the municipal side of their website business, and they haven't been able to get in more than 2 or 3 communities. So they haven't therefore made any real advancements towards improving it. So if they're not able to change with times, we may have to. So we're looking at potentially moving.
All right, so we'll leave that on the.
Have you seen increased traffic though?
We have seen increased traffic.
Okay.
And we're doing, but it's a lot of work on management on that front end to try to make sure that stuff is where it's supposed to be so
Right.
people can find it.
That's one piece. Navigate the map.
And that kind of mechanical stuff is.
At least we know they're going there more.
I think the website's great, so I'm glad it's making it get better.
Cool.
Code Red sign up we had there on this. Do we need to keep this on?
No, I mean, we keep pushing it out. We keep let people know to sign up for it and sign up for the website, but
I have a comment about, is the code red the reverse 911?
Yeah, yeah.
So I would just like to make a comment that in the introduction, it should be identified. Stay tuned for an important message from. It doesn't say who it's from, and ordinarily I would just hang up and utter a 4-letter word for being annoyed. But I think if it was identified, stay tuned for an important message from the town of Hamilton. That might be helpful.
that's I appreciate that feedback. That's good. I think one thing we want to talk about is how much more you want to use Code Red than what we do. We have really largely kept it to just emergencies. For the longest time, we made a couple of allowances this year with our town hall season to extend out into things. So I wouldn't mind having a conversation with the board about, are we at the status quo, or do you want to expand it a little bit more? We could expand it a lot more, but then we've always been concerned that
What media
we
does it do?
it does text, email, and phone call.
It does all three. Okay.
And then and we typically use it mostly for kind of like emergency
Yeah.
stuff.
Parking
Yeah.
and snow.
Yeah, parking, snow. There was a train crash on Asbury Street in Okara, so find alternate routes, those kind of things.
I've also used it for big events. I know when I was organizing a community event, I was allowed to use it, which was good because it's another source of communication and information.
I got 2 calls after we used it for the town to announce the town meeting plans, and one of them was like, "Oh my God, this is great! Thank you so much. I'd forgotten about town meeting. Thanks for the message." And then the other one was like, "That's supposed to be for emergencies. Why are you using that to push your agenda?" I was like, "All right, I can't win."
I like the
I
first.
was like, "I can't win. I don't know what to say."
Is there a cost to use it?
No, we pay an annual cost, but it's not per message.
Is there any risk of it? Then
It becomes background noise.
tuning it out.
Yeah, then it's a 4-letter word. It's
Yeah.
spam at some
Yeah,
point,
right.
right?
You
At
can't
a
do it
certain
every
point.
day. It could be like, oh.
Maybe you have a policy on it, and you say these are the author, and then you got to honestly. Then
What
go
policies I got to write now?
No, but it's like I do worry too much goes on. There's a bake sale, plant sale.
Yeah, I don't want that.
It should be for the big things that's built.
Yeah,
And town meeting's a big thing. That should be one.
It was.
And then it's kind of like
Yeah.
up to somebody's decision making. Maybe it's yours. We don't need to.
The
think it depends
I
what
would
it
keep
is.
it on there to establish code red policy. Identify what. So I have this here again, but I think it goes back up town hall. But please, what we need to set a communication for town hall. Like I want to create some excitement in town. One of my goals when town hall opens back up, create some sort of excitement and some sort of events.
Big party.
We'll have
We
a
should have a grand
dance.
opening.
We'll
People
have
can
a
walk through.
dance.
I think
But-
just like the football
But
field.
do something different, whatever I want to just think about, be creative out of the box to make it a different experience. Not just the
Scavenger
opening,
hunt.
but board. How does it function as our town center?
Scavenger hunt is fun. So like very, I can see people enjoying that.
That'd be fun. I'll go to Joe's office and find his
That would be cool.
Yeti cup or something. You get 2 points.
So we have the other one that was put on that was new this year. Communication with select board. I tried to combine different things, but the goal was reset a policy on what needs to be communicated to board, to chair, and at what frequencies and no surprises on town issues. Right? We have emails that go out. You send emails out. I do a good job of that. We meet every 2 weeks, more or less. But if there what other things that come up in the course of the day that somebody just had a text out if something happens, like a life safety issue, you'll send out an accident or a death or somebody missing. But we don't have a policy for how you communicate with us and how you do it. So I'm thinking that I think we all would feel better if we had some sort of policy on what you communicate out to the board, at what frequency and in what manner. I think you do a good job of it, but I think consistency is probably more important than anything else at this point. I think we know the one thing that happened is that there was a miscommunication about the whole, the issue with the way we reach out for a legal opinion. I don't think we did anything wrong there, but just the communication wasn't great. So that was the example that sets the need for policy.
I'll take the hit. I don't know what happened. I got the opinion. I talked to you about it, and I typed a message from my
But it's even
phone. I was home on a Friday afternoon. I typed a message from my phone, and I hit send. I thought I had sent it out, and then
But the beauty,
there was never a record of it. And then,
the beauty of it,
So,
the fact you didn't send it is even better because it means we didn't do anything with it. We didn't communicate to anybody. We didn't.
well, there wouldn't have been anything wrong with doing it.
Exactly.
anything with it either.
Right.
I mean, it's
We didn't do anything wrong, but we should have better balanced policies to make sure.
the people that have asked this question and made it or tried to make it an issue are assuming that in asking for a legal opinion that there was an agenda being sought.
Right.
No, I was asking for information so that the board, when it came, if they needed to make a decision, would have all the information. It is something that I do with legal counsel all the time
Right.
on hundreds of other issues every day, every year.
How's this going to come back to us?
So when I'm sitting in a meeting with them and they ask me what are my options, I know what the options are. I was complimented earlier and I appreciated that I'm prepared when we get to meetings. That's why I'm prepared.
Right.
I did it with that exactly what I've done 100 other times or more. So
No, that's doing your job.
there was no agenda in it.
Right.
I've said all along, I don't have an agenda on the school. It's up to the town. It's up to the voters. It's not up to me. My job is to make sure the process gets followed. And in that process, we get asked questions. What about this? What about that? I'm just trying to have the answers to those questions.
Right.
I'm wondering why the issue of town sovereignty and taxing its residents wasn't on that. That's the only comment I'll make about it. That when a town incurs debt, there's a legal process to follow that's separate from the schools. So I think that would have been an important issue to discuss with the board. And I think I sent you an email regarding that. Because it's the issue is not just the schools. How does this affect the town now, and how does it affect the taxing authority in the future? So I think that's a critical issue, and I don't know who else would have said anything, but I was rather shocked about that, and I would have expected something like that to come to us so that we could have discussed it and the implications for the town.
I wasn't trying to hide it from anybody.
Right, and the reason that it didn't come up and we didn't discuss it is because it got taken out of our hands.
No, this issue here regarding having a townwide ballot vote. I think, I'll just say this just very briefly. I think that town council did a very narrow opinion, produced a very narrow opinion, and I think I have concerns about whether that was a full analysis, looking at all the issues involved. So, but I don't want to detract from what we're talking about.
And I get that. I get that. So I think a policy on just what, when, how would be good, just so we're clear and consistent, and then for as we
I think
move
that's a
forward.
good
I think it's a good idea. Gordon Conwell site. We're close on this one, but still needs to be on here because we have to finalize the development agreement and the zoning and have a fall town meeting. So Mary's had a meeting that I dialed into.
Yep.
With every, and looks like what we've agreed to is in the best interest of the town. And the only thing I've asked to do is to find out just where our negotiations, if it doesn't, it was hard and fast. So we'll find those steps out next. But I think within the next 6 months, we'll know whether or not we're moving forward with the development and the zoning agreement. So
There'll be a discussion at the select board meeting on Monday night around about the meeting. It was a joint meeting with the planning board chair and Pamela, the vice chair, and Rosie and Bill, who have been designated by the select board to negotiate with the development agreement. And Mark Connors was there, and I was there, and kind of going through what the proposed zoning is and where we're at with the development agreement and what requests and changes need to be made still. So we'll give you a complete update.
It's moving. It's moving.
It's moving. But and I'll repeat this again in open session, and well, this is open session too, but I'll repeat this in the meeting on Monday. So the seminary has told us that they want to get it done this fall. I was very clear to Merowith. You saw the note I sent to the abutters. I sent Merowith a very similar note. In fact, I cut and pasted a lot of what was in one to the other one so that they both got the same message. But they need to make a decision really quick about what they want to agree to so that we can move forward, or it won't happen. The only reason to have a special town meeting this fall is to help Gordon Conwell.
that's the only agenda item.
There's no other item that we have right now looking at it.
If we have a meeting, we might have somebody else do it, but we don't have no at this point.
There's nothing that we know of right now.
Approved prior bills.
So, I mean, as of right now, we don't even have any of those.
I know.
So Joe,
I'm glad you
so I had this on here too. Was educate public, build consensus, schedule special meeting. I'd put it as a note for myself, really, but whose responsibility is it to educate the public, build consensus, schedule special meeting? Like who? Like this is a kind of a weird one because, in whose best interest is it for this thing to pass? Is it in our best interest? Is it for Gordon Conwell's best interest? I mean, what?
So,
It's supposed to be both of us, right? 50-50, right?
It's both. There's benefits for the town.
Right.
There's hopefully inclusion of all 209 units on to the SHI as affordable,
Right.
which I think is a very good case for the town. It practically gets us to a 10% overnight,
It will get us over.
and
Yeah.
that takes the threat of future 40Bs off the table
And the one that's on
for now. No, it doesn't. That one's
Not
got
yet.
their application in. They're in the process.
Oh, so it doesn't
And
matter.
I'm going to guarantee you the reason they filed it with
That's
they
exactly right.
They wanted
I mean,
to get the application in so that they were in line before we
Gotcha.
make any
That's how it
changes.
works. Okay.
So,
Can't take one of
the
both
won't-
of the other.
Yeah, Marty was asking me that, and I said, no, the application, I think, being filed makes them,
That
makes
gets
them
their
have
foot in the door.
us words, right, so-
That gets their foot in the door. So,
Yeah.
So I don't know if a goal like this, like I said with COA and department, should be development, large developments that come into town, whether it's
I have that
40B,
here too.
whether it's
Yes,
three,
I do.
but if they're
Yes.
bucketed into one
Yes,
category.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have that here too, Bill. So it's a good point.
Okay.
yeah, but that's our job as we move through it. It's our job to share with the town meeting, whoever has to vote on it, why the town's moving in this direction, why you're asking for this vote. It's our job to come up with the tables that show the benefits and the tables that show the potential pitfalls. And
So we talked about this a lot. Travis talked about that, like when we did town hall, right? When we did town hall, there was comments that sort of if our I think the five of us were all in favor of renovating town hall, or the five of the people on the select board at the time. But it was sort of like, well, if you want it to pass, you can't just have a meeting and put it on the ballot. You got to go convince people. You got to build consensus. And I'm not a politician or a campaign expert or a PR expert, and so we didn't really do it, and so we didn't pass, right? Like because we were, and so I always struggle. Like, is it our job to do that? Like, as an elected official, am I also supposed to be like running a campaign, or can I hire somebody to run a campaign, or can I motivate someone? So I never know. I go to put this on the town goal in terms of like
it's not
building
the town
consensus.
it's not the town manager, the town staff's job. I'm not
Right.
allowed to advocate one way or another for a
Right.
vote on anything, and I never have.
Right.
And my staff can't do that either.
So
There's
we
a-
do white paper.
there's a caveat that, I can put out pros and cons, or I can put out these are things in this proposal that would benefit the town of
Well,
Hamilton.
yeah, just
But I
the
can't say,
facts. That's
please
not-
vote this way.
Right, that's not
I
advocating.
can't advocate for it. I can just
Right.
lay out the facts. And I can do that, and we tried to do those things. We did those things
is
with
the
the
right terminology then. It has to be just
building consensus and getting a vote turnout, that's a political activity. Any of you can do that. Any resident of the town who happens to work for the town can do it in their own time. I don't work for I work for the town, and I don't live here, so it would be really awkward for me to be doing that in my own time. So
Why would that just be awkward?
state might look at it a little funny. They might be like, I don't really know what he's doing here.
you always kind of want an ad hoc group to form that political committee.
Yeah, so-
and that's what sort of I've let happen. But I was wondering, like, something happened in the future, like the water thing, right? The 5 of us are going to be in favor of a water thing, and we're going to have to go convince town to vote yes on it. Are we
Well,
really
I
allowed to do that? And that's how does that work?
Though does come out through us like scheduling like dedicated meetings to it, right? You know, I think that's a new like a strategy where it's like, hey, this meeting is just gonna be about like water, right? And
Right.
and having you know the analyses, you know, having the pro cons, you know, getting stuff from FinCom, etc. You know,
The actual running a campaign, I'm talking the sophistication of a campaign, of mailing lists. And
It requires
calling,
volunteers and
vo-
people
and
volunteering to
organizing
do it.
volunteers.
I see.
Like that's different than I know what you're saying. You're saying what we do with our little grassroots effort, but I'm talking about if you're going to build a campaign. Building campaigns are a very sophisticated campaign, and so the question is like, if we is that something that we can ever put in our 5-10 year plan? Like, well, we want the
No.
water thing to pass. We really can't
You
run
can
a
do it.
campaign.
You can do it as elected officials in the town in your own time. You can't have the town do it.
Right.
Okay. But one of the advantages to being an elected official is we might have, maybe we don't need a big campaign. Maybe we need to talk to people and advocate for this, and then they can just, in a grassroots fashion, go up and advocate for or against something.
Yeah, like can we support like a town, like a group that's
You can individually support. I wouldn't suggest that you take a vote. You can take a vote to support on a warrant article, and you can individually support a committee by giving your time or making a donation or putting a bumper sticker on your car. Those are all things that you can do.
yeah.
So what if there was a pro-water group that gets formed as we're trying to make this decision and they're trying to get the message out? Can we, and they have an event, right? Where they're
You can go.
We can go.
Buy
we can
tickets,
speak
go,
as-
what- do whatever
You
you
can't speak as on behalf of the board. Can you?
No.
No, but you can
No.
speak as an
As
an
a
elected
member.
official.
It's not on like building brighter futures or whatever. It was
You're not
developed
speaking
out
for
of the
the
school.
opinion of the board, but you're speaking at your opinion as a elected member.
But I chose not like right. That's a perfect building right.
Yeah.
I didn't go to any meetings. I didn't like. I wasn't
You
mailing lists.
could have.
But I so I didn't.
was all
I didn't know,
allowed.
'cause I didn't know where to. Fit, but for me personally, I was like, I'm gonna keep it separate.
So,
I think there's
balance.
There are some things
So-
there
so-
where it's like hey, out of the lack of options and like this being in the community's best interest as an elected official, if you feel strongly about something, like, it's like every politician should.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
People elected you
Well, we're not
to support
politicians,
their
right?
decision.
We're just not as good at it. That's all.
But I think maybe is that something the task force could address on how do we get it resonated throughout the communities? The same message, the same importance, the same facts.
You know, the task force, other than the people who organize it, which was, was really led by Senator Tarr and Senator Lovely and some of the state reps in the area, and they brought all the officials together, they brought all the staffs together, so they got me there. And a lot of the work is being done either with grants with consultants or by people like me, professionals working in Salem and Beverly and Hamilton and Peabody, and we're all at the table talking about what the concerns of our community are, how we need to address those, and whatever plan goes, all that. But again, they're all like me, so they can't do that. The task force can't do that.
Right. Okay.
Senator Tarr, Senator Lovely, Brett Kavanaugh, they can all do that. They can encourage you to all do that as individuals.
Yeah. We just have to be careful not to show up together in a corner. So
No, I mean, you can, again, it's not that narrow. You can, it's a small town, you guys are going to bump into each other all the time. On a random Friday night, 3 of you could be at dinner together at the same time at the post. That doesn't mean that you're having an illegal meeting. And you're welcome to say hi to each other and exchange pleasantries and ask about, kids and horses and everything else. You you can't sit there and talk about things that you're going to be talking about at a board meeting, your business.
And that's same with social media too, right? Like if we got to be careful about replying.
So I'll reword it to basically educate the public, white paper, and schedule a special town meeting. I was a good discussion because I always struggle. Like, what do we?
Plus,
Like,
if we
what do
do all these things, that gives us access to all the facts as well. So if we do want to be able to speak to it with, some confidence, to help inform people and like
I like what we did. I think we did like a one pager. We said, let's do this for 3A. Let's do this for Gordon Conwell. Caroline was around then.
Yeah.
Something like that on water and
Yeah.
big items gives us a consistent message with the,
All right. All right. I'm
Addition
sorry.
is probably unrealistic, but like, what would be ideal? This is coming from someone with like this, technology background of like, if there's just like something as far as a project tracker that we had that would just like, here's like the 5 major projects that we have, and here are like all the steps that we're taking. Here is a project, and we all had access to it, right? On like some
We talked
cloud.
about that. We've
Yeah,
talked
I know
about
I
that.
brought it up before,
Yes,
and I know
yes.
it's like a software that we have to purchase, and there's money involved. There's like someone has to maintain it and update it, so there's an admin cost. And I know it's probably, but I mean, it would just be if we could just log into something onto the website and be like, oh, what's going on with Gordon Conwell? Oh, they just had a meeting, and we're gonna be.
how cool would that be?
It would be. It would just make.
No, we talked about it. I just don't know what that means.
You're
But
talking us into getting that new website.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, that to me is just.
I don't think
You
it.
little techie.
Oh, yeah, but Ben brings up a good idea. That maybe there's something we could do by switching websites. We might be able to say, on the DPW page, you could say, these are the 3 ongoing projects, road repaving. And once a week, Tim can go in and just update road repavings at this point. Town hall project is at this point. And then people can look on and say, okay, so town hall project's at 55%, and they're at 55% of the budget, so they're on time, on budget right now. That's great. I'm glad to see it. There might be something we can do with
Like cell
that
towers,
through the website. That'd be easier, because if we can create an easier website, it's easier to get information onto the website. It'd be an easier thing. Ideally, what you want is that wherever we're putting this information in, we can also, pull it out so that I'm not asking Tim to work on the town manager report and then go into the website and do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then, go and talk
you don't want
to,
to
you don't want to do it 3 or 4 times. So if we could find one place where all of our staff, the department heads are recording their updates, then it populates to other things. Now you're getting me into, do we have the techie that I can get to do that for us? It's possible.
You could, I mean,
It's not you? They both did this. I'm like, oh.
yeah, you could do something cloud-based, and Google Suites is great for that. I know you don't have it here probably, but people go in live, update it, change it. And you get an update 10 minutes from now, someone changed it. But I think that's good. And I'm not talking public facing. I don't think you were either. I'm talking
I
like
was
lower.
just like more internally for us.
Right, like lower, but like maybe it is the website, lower button, kind of like the owner's login.
Yeah.
Like we could get in.
Yeah.
So now we're behind a different wall, this petition, and we could see whatever you want us to see.
We have the Microsoft Suite, Power BI,
Yep.
stuff, so those dashboards, and
Well, you don't have Power BI here, probably. I mean, that sits on top of it.
When did you all start speaking Greek?
the company called Airtable. I like their stuff. They're pretty good dashboards.
I know.
There's these tools out there you could get.
But I mean, it can be basic. Too. This is a tracker. But I think this is Excel. I live in Excel every day. All day.
Exactly.
Yeah, $100,000 budget to make I'm on track.
Yeah.
And a full-time person to update it.
I know.
I put it on here. We'll figure out how to add it to the
Okay.
scope.
Okay.
Next one was Pat Homestead. So once again, the next year, we're gonna have to figure out what to do with it. So it's back on the list to sort of figure out.
So, real quick, I mean, we're not taking any votes, but if by Monday night, one of you could volunteer, I have reconstituted the patent task force that we had prior to moving into the patent homestead, and that patent task force was responsible for getting the select board to vote and give us 5 more years, and then we wound up taking over the building. When we move out, we need to have a swim. We've got I'd love to have a proposal ready for annual town meeting on what to do with the Pat Homestead when the town vacates. This is what happens next. We have a proposal from somebody that wants to work with us. I need the help of the task force to help me analyze that and go through all the pros and cons.
Here.
You gotta have it too. Then
I,
If you really want it, you got it. It's a lot on your plate, but I'd love you on it. So
yeah, well, I know.
You don't have to give us an issue now because we're not voting anything, but we can talk about it Monday if you want.
Yeah.
So everybody, I'm not going to be there Monday, just so I told Joe. I don't know if I told everybody, but
Yeah, I'm very interested, Patton Homestead, because I've been on both sides of that fence, and yeah, I'd be very
So
interested.
it's still in
I
it's
don't
still in
think
the
it's
thing,
goes,
but
that one goes quietly into the night. Either, though. I don't know that it's going to be ready for move out. Maybe I'm wrong. You think
okay.
it was too?
All right, so leave that one on there.
Let's not get into it.
Traffic, sidewalk. Everybody sort of added something.
Is that Trapeze? Is that
yeah,
French?
Trapeze is French. Traffic, sidewalk, safety. I mean, so a lot of different things there, but we just got a new grant, right, for what, $50,000 or something,
yeah, that's to do.
right?
That's going to do the engineering and design to connect the rest of Highland,
Island, yeah.
Oh, okay.
which is good. So you got a partial loop. You know, most of you residents that live in the downtown probably know about the loop, and there's a kind of a dangerous part that there's no sidewalk on each side of
Yeah,
the
I
street.
want that.
And we're-
My
so
little
we got-
nephews.
But do we have
We have
like
an
a-
earmark from the state. You know, I don't have the funds in hand yet, but we've got an earmark that's been approved in the budget for $50,000. We'll use that and some of our existing sidewalk money to hopefully get it all constructed. We might be able to get that done in the next calendar year.
It's going to be on the house side, not where the
Yeah.
that
There'll be a crosswalk.
metal
There'll be a crosswalk from where it dead ends now over, and then go up the side to where the other crosswalk is, and so it'll work out just fine.
thing.
It'll go right past Lake, because Lake is where the you get in from the town water plant. So it'll go right past Lake a little bit, and then you'll cross over again, and it's already up on the other side of all the way to Wenham.
Yeah.
So
So we need to advocate for the corner of your street, Rust and Union. That one corner right there that doesn't have a ramp going down to the street. That is one thing that my neighbor, since the neighborhood has asked me since day one of being on the select board. Now I'm in year 4, so I have to get that fixed. There's no ramp going down, so like people that ride their bike have to go over the curb and go up over the curb.
Rust and Union.
Rest of the Union. Yeah, there's like the corner. There's just
Yeah.
there's no ramp down to the street.
Oh, that's interesting because it's everywhere else.
Everywhere, that's the only one. And like everyone, like all of our neighborhood's kids ride their bike down that sidewalk.
You don't have to-
Oh, that's right.
Let's not put that on my goals because I'm going to talk to Tim. We'll see what.
I guess that's the side.
Do we have like a heat map of where traffic accidents happen most frequently in Hamilton? Do we try to address it? Like, what's our? I know that Wenham has not really Wenham per se, but I know that the state's trying to rework the lights on, you know. But would we have anything going on in our community to
So,
like rework sort of?
Just so you know,
safety?
that process, getting the street lights on 1A in Wenham,
Yeah.
was started by Peter Lombardi when he was the town administrator in Wenham before I was here.
Took a bit.
It's still not.
So that's
Is it on the agenda? Is it? paid for?
it's
Is it
on the
funded?
state
It's
process.
still a
They're
work in
done.
progress.
I think they're at 75% design. They're getting closer.
But do we have a plan of what we want to improve traffic, crosswalks, sidewalks? I know we talked about it at Asbury with that funky
Asbury. So we did the complete streets plan, and we identified through the complete streets process. Yeah, we did this years ago before you were back on the board, Phil. And we've applied for complete streets money a couple times for the Asbury Highland intersection. That's that funky intersection. That's the biggest. That's kind of the biggest trouble spot for us that would require significant dollars to help us really improve for everything.
I've heard quite a few comments about this intersection.
It's Asbury to here, like to ship your light.
This just, especially if you're some of the folks when they're newer to town or what have you, and just the traffic pattern there and the rules and norms are very different.
There are none.
Yeah, I've heard that. But having a hotspot list would be good. Like where are the problematic Essex Street's been on there right now.
And then Goodhue.
Like, it's like these two.
What's
Yeah,
what's
that's a.
What's the
it's
final?
not
What's the
really
final
Yeah.
condition of Goodhue?
And the end of Sharon is that
And
just
the
gonna
end of
have
Sharon, too, it's
weed
like, looks like
rocks and
crap.
Yeah, you
reflective
said you were
sign?
going to plant trees there. take off the asphalt
look
and
like
plant
crap.
trees.
Beautification. I know it looks like
The
a
beautification of our traffic safety.
We need some beautification.
Yes. I know there's no money but to do it, but make the freaking residents pay for it. They got their street closed off. Make them
Do a survey. Pick a plant for the end of.
So I think we had voted on what Goodhue was going to look like for the time being, and we're waiting to see if it improved things. In you know, the grand scheme of things, no news is good news. I haven't had any more complaints
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
neighbors on Goodhue, so I feel like that means it's worked.
Yeah, it's dramatically.
I go all the way
decreased
now and
traffic.
take a right on
Walden Field.
Walden Field, yeah.
Good.
Because I can't just go straight.
I know you have to turn. That's not a very good. It's like an S turn. It's
Yeah.
It's good because it slows you down.
Well, it is.
That's
and
the whole
that's,
point.
That's
That's
the
the
whole
point.
Yeah.
purpose.
So I don't even go there anymore. I go all the way up
Yeah.
and then I go on.
Walden
That's
Field is
Walden
a nightmare.
So basically, what I'm hearing is that get Sharon and the Goodhue, get
Beautification.
get him look.
Take those
This is the next
photos.
step, especially with Sharon. 'Cause that's old. Maybe we're still like doing study.
No, I think they think that was a permanent solution. But I agree. It's just not great.
Right.
Okay.
Feels like we
Well,
just
well,
checked the
I
box
think it
and moved.
started temporary though.
It started
really.
temporary, and it just,
Yeah.
I mean, in the scheme
happened.
of you know, we
Has anyone
sometimes it's, I
complained?
mean, we have a lot of ideas of good things we want to do. It took us in,
Yeah.
forever to build Duke Senior sidewalk, and then it's there now. So
Yeah.
it's
Well,
Bill,
We got
that's
the, we got the fire engine house going. Slowly but
Yeah.
surely.
bravo. They're making really good progress out there. I'm
that's
impressed.
because of the large portion of the work is being done by Ray Burnett and the son.
Yes, well,
They're
hey,
there
listen,
Saturdays. I'm working on Sundays.
old school
We haven't put that to the
volunteerism.
firefighter training that's supposed to be for new select board members, right?
Yeah.
That was a one-time. You guys asked for and received. Nobody else has ever asked for it. I mean,
You get full gear and you go into the tower. Where
This is how you haze the new select.
Yeah.
I want to do that.
Here's real-
Tom and Caroline volunteered for it. They talked to Ray and went through it. Nobody else ever said anything.
Cut a card in half with the jaws of life.
You did?
Yeah.
Go cut that
Are you
sidewalk
serious? I
curb
feel like
then.
you're just totally.
No,
lying.
I have pictures. I have
No, they did it. No, they
Did you see the new sidewalk here, by the way?
Yeah.
Him and Caroline.
No, I mean, I
Yeah,
heard about it, but I
Yeah,
haven't.
Caroline.
New sidewalk here connecting up the street, and the broken one here has been taken up, and it's going to be planted with grass. It's not going to be because it's too steep. We can't make it go to code.
We've
So
been
we're getting rid of it
telling
out.
you that.
So we're getting rid of that, and then new sidewalk scopes around at the end of the where we can do it.
Yeah,
Great.
that's good. Yes, we talked about that at the meeting, and nobody had a bad thing to say about it. So bravo.
We have
I'm
Pat.
trying, Rosie. We
have
are
Pat.
making
You
we
are.
are making progress.
We have Patton
Yes,
Park. And I do
you
think Patton Park in the next year is important. I think we have enough work on to work on next year and put Patton Park and
You
maybe
know,
something in
Let,
27.
let me just make one
Yeah.
quick comment, and then I'll be quiet for a moment. But
Caroline worked full gear.
what the heck is there to do with Patton Park? I mean, honestly, every inch of that park is taken up with something. So what is the
If you
plan?
remember, there was a master plan that was done,
I know.
and they
I
kind
know.
of, but it was basically new bathrooms, new gazebo,
Bathrooms and gazebo, I think, are the higher priority.
reorganizing the fields so it actually work better.
Some drainage for the
Yeah.
far field because it drains poorly. It's too close to Weaver Pond and
Okay,
fills
so-
up with water. So drainage for the pond, a navigable pathway that would be ADA accessible, and bathroom and gazebo rooms are main things that I think are the top priorities. They're also some of the most expensive.
Right. Yeah.
So identifying how big a priority they are for you and where you want us to put them on the capital list because it's going to take local investment. There's no grants for that.
I have an idea. When I was on select board last time, I talked to the Little League folks, and they had verbally agreed in a select board meeting that they would help to underwrite refurbishing, rehabilitation of the gazebo, because also in the line they had games there, and there were lots of people, kids playing on the gazebo, lots of wear and tear. So I wouldn't be at all adverse to reaching out to them again because they do have a lot of.
I think maybe it's not. So maybe this isn't a goal for this year on the primary goal, but maybe in a future meeting we should have the plan, review it as a group. We should decide what we want to do this year, next year, 5-10 years down the road. It does need. It's a great resource. People use it, but we can't kick the can down the road. We need to keep making it beautiful and work bit by bit, small. But I know we did the playground years ago. we keep the pond, we did the pool. Now we got to do the gazebo. We got
I
to do
think
the
the gazebo
bathrooms.
is high priority,
Yeah.
especially on Sundays.
It's
They
small
have
part.
those
Yeah.
concerts there.
I think that was the gazebo tied to relocating the tank, which I know is going to be a sort separate.
I don't remember. I
Because I
don't
really
want
want
to
to
answer.
relocate the
I don't
tank
want to
make
answer
the
that,
field
you're
look
on,
better.
so-
Put it in a better spot.
What's the latest on the gazebo at the homestead, and will that bring traffic that way as far as?
We got the bids all came in more than what we had for money. So we're kind of going back to drawing board.
Do we still want to do it with the uncertainty, dare I say?
So the one, I mean, that's one of the things
We're still
I want.
gonna keep
I want the
the
task
property,
force. It's one of the things I want to have the task force talk about. The one proposal that we have in front of us right now has no problem, and actually would see the addition of the gazebo.
As long as you're thinking about it, yeah.
Yeah, the people that have asked us about, either a lease or purchase of the buildings have indicated that they'd be not just supportive of, but hoping that we would go forward with the pavilion project that they could enhance the program they want to do. So.
Well, how about if they participate in providing some funding for that? I'd love everything to be done by the town to benefit.
Well, this was a lot of fundraising. People who raise money for that can have an issue with
This is a group that's going to potentially be taking the expense of managing the buildings off of the town's plate. I'd rather they spend their money in that endeavor rather than spend the money that they're raising.
Is this the money raised for the?
Well, we had, but it came in. It wasn't. If it came in over budget, so we had
So then maybe they could.
we're looking at potentially changing the size of the pavilion or doing some other things and re-engineering, redesigning it to try and get the cost
So
down.
the patent I'm not going to put on primary goals, but it'll be on other items. So,
These types of like small works improvements as well. It's buildings and infrastructure, paint or electrical, plumbing, that kind of stuff. One of the residents I spoke to in town and mentioned potential of using those students like going through what they call it, the kind of apprenticeship programs at Essex Tech.
We already have used the tech kids have done. They rewired the same for us at Homestead. They've done other work for us on Homestead. You have to get in. You have to get in line with them. So you have to pay for all the supplies, whatever's being installed, and then you're kind of a little bit beholden to their schedule. When
yeah, the issue was last time we did something with them, they had a class and they didn't finish. They didn't have a class until 6 months later. So they didn't get done for like 6
So
months.
like a contractor, what's the problem?
They left a hammer on the side.
we have taken advantage of the stuff at times, but
That sounds a good idea, but the logistics of it became like, oh gosh, they only had a month, and then they were off for a long time,
Yeah.
and then they didn't have it. And then the next semester starts, they don't do the field work until the end of the semester. So it was like literally 6 months from when they started, like came back.
Okay. Yeah.
but it's like it's a good idea.
If it's-
It's something we've done.
If it's cost effective,
Yeah.
if it's sort of just leaving us holding back, and then
Yeah, if it doesn't have a real high.
So and it highlights again, going back to communications. Somebody thought to have that idea and share with you. So obviously we didn't do a good enough job telling people that we had the tech kids out to rewire the barn for us. So we should highlight that we're doing those things when we do. So people,
yeah. I think it's like about right sizing the projects and types of things, but then also kind of wanting to check with them too, to just say, is this something that you got to commit to?
Yeah.
Like, this is the work that needs to be done. Like, it's got to be like started and finished, within the timeline. And if it's sort of like, well, it's too big of a thing, we only have 5 folks who will come out, and but let's.
Yeah, we've done that in the past.
All right, the last main item on the main goals is the school. I think we all agree on.
Yeah.
I wrote realign agreement, but rewrite the agreement, whatever it is,
Yeah.
has to be done.
So that we've got a committee that's working on it. I think the next meeting's in September.
Third,
Was it September 3rd?
they still, I don't know, they still put me on the list. I thought it was.
I think you're right. I think that
And then you got the budget discussions, and then proactive coordination on future school construction project and planning. Because once again, this project,
Yeah.
no project's passed right now, but something will happen at some school in the future. They just got some proactive coordination with what they're.
So they've, they actually, incidentally, the school committee has reached out. They're ramping up their, in response to what the FinCom's been saying to them for a couple of years now. But one of FinCom's now finally saying to them, they're building out their kind of capital and wanting to include folks from the town on it. So they reached out to me, when Steve Poulos last week looking for us to assign somebody to work with that committee. So I'll I'll bring it up to you under new business on Monday night. We'll
The
talk about,
capital plan?
you know, for yeah.
Great. And some back on my office hours asking for exactly that. Like when it comes to this 5 and 10-year road mapping and things like that, it's 60% of the budget from the school. Like we need to know.
It's stuff we've been asking for them for ages.
This is like, I don't know if it's appropriate to put it in a district agreement, but it's like being able to get those updates every few years of like, hey, give us a forecast.
You can put anything you want in there.
But it might be something that just like kind of to really help.
They do have a
accountable
plan
to it, so that
We've seen it.
Joe, if we've been asking for 2 years and now they're finally thinking about maybe doing it, it's like let's actually do it.
They're doing it. So I mean, look.
We
I
know what
don't want to
they've
make
done.
I don't want to make
Capcom
excuses
has
for them.
this.
They did go.
Yeah.
They just added Curtis this year. They had Tom Geary. Tom Geary was overwhelmed, and then Tom Geary ghosted them. He was on leave for several months. Kept telling them he'd be returning to work. Then finally, he didn't answer. And the day they thought he was going back to work, he informed them that he resigned effective immediately. And then it took them a period of time to hire his replacement. So, you know,
First doing a great job.
when you don't have a person in the building to manage the workload,
I
it took
think it's just about
it's all about. So
it's giving us the ability as well to do our forecasting, and like if we're needing to start to think about other revenue streams, whatever's coming, you know, just need to really start.
Yeah.
Because that takes time, right? You know,
And I think we need to think about a realistic balance of school versus town needs. I think in terms of their capital plan, I think that's really important. I think that the schools, in my time here in town, they've been very sort of knee-jerk and not thinking broadly and long-term, which is a very frustrating issue for many people.
I share your frustration in terms of working on it for 7 years with them, and it's gotten better in some ways, but it's still frustrating. And we're trying to put more process into the regional agreement so that stuff is defined better, and they're at the table agreeing to it right now. So I'm hoping it all goes that way. It's positive to this point.
Well,
But
there's
at the
some
end of the
things
day-
that they want to insert in that regional agreement that I think we need to look very, very
Whatever.
closely at.
Unfortunately, what passed at town meeting the year before the school field pass was that horrible plan that said they could use free
So-
cash to do whatever they want.
Yeah, but
That,
well,
oh my God, that was.
And I spoke out against that one, and
the
nobody.
whole board voted.
Nobody listened to me.
The whole board of selectmen voted to make a negative recommendation.
Yeah,
and
it's still passed.
upon that, and it still passed.
Yeah.
So I understand what Rosie is saying. I do. And I share the same concerns. I have conversations I have had with every superintendent we've had since I got here. I advocate always for the town's resources, the limits of its resources. But at the end of the day, the process is that it goes to town meeting and it gets voted on by town meeting. And what you see as what is fair allocation of resources is not necessarily what somebody else is going to see as a fair allocation of resources. And when we get to town meeting floor, the voters that show up are the ones that are going to make the decision.
Right, but the problem is we always just, you brought this up, Ben, we one at a time.
And I
Like,
don't mean
if we
to-
showed everybody water, everything in a row, then they can think,
Yeah.
oh no, I'd rather have this, and they can prioritize.
But the reason that passed is because people thought they were voting for the school fields.
Right.
It was a
It was
con job.
Well, they did.
it was clearly communicated that.
Brother.
Well, I spoke out very loudly on that at the town
I
floor.
got booed off the stage because I spoke out so loudly about.
So I'm like, this is not for the school fields. This is not this project.
Right, exactly. That was an unequivocally
Yeah, well, I don't know if we even
irresponsible
no.
use.
Yeah, but we're not gonna get into it right now. But
No.
but we want to align on the agreement. We can't change that unless it goes back. Now the pendulum's gonna swing. Now the fields are in, and now the vote might happen in September. After that happens, the pendulum might swing a little bit, where it's like, okay, they don't need any more funds because they have the projects that
They
they
will
need. for next
never
term.
not need funds. That's the
well,
problem.
that's true.
The
That's why
schools-
they want to talk. Last I checked, is about 25 million in other stuff.
The other stuff, yeah.
The schools are just, they're so appalled that people would actually say no to them. It's not that we don't care about the schools. It's not that we don't care about providing an excellent education for our children. The problem is that we, as a select board, are responsible for the town as a whole. And I have a real problem with and this is just a smidge off topic, but the fact that we sacrifice our budget, and I've talked to you about this before, we sacrifice the things that are needed in our budget to accommodate the schools. And I think that's wrong. It builds resentment in the town that it has to be, you know, the school committee will tell you, well, our priority and all we think about are the schools. Wait a minute, you're part of a town. You're not, you know, my mantra, we're not a school district with a funding source. We're a town and we have varied needs. And I think that was probably why, one of the reasons why I was so upset about that letter is because it didn't take the legal rights of the town into consideration in that analysis. Sorry, I had to get it out there.
So, in the school agreement, and I don't know if it's a state statute, federal statute, or just an agreement, but the fact that it's a bottom line budget and not a line item budget, is that state law? Yeah.
Education Reform Act 1990. So,
We're held hostage by those sort of things.
but so is, I mean, really you're having the same conversation that every community has, right? Even communities that have the school district under the umbrella of the municipality, it's a little bit easier to apply influence in that regard. But the school department is still charged with developing a budget that meets the needs of the students. The school committee is still charged with doing that and presenting that budget to whatever its source is, city council or town meeting or whatever, and advocating for that budget. And the other side, the remaining departments,
Town, God forbid.
the remaining departments are left with trying to make their case to get what they need within that same framework. So
There are lots of, you know,
it's no different from any other town.
well, a lot of towns are pushing back and telling these school districts that they need to cut X amount of dollars from their budgets. And I for one feel the impacts of these never-ending school asks and the myopic opinion that we should just give unequivocally to the schools.
Yeah, I get you. We can talk about it now, but
I know.
But I will only say is that the majority of the costs go to staff, and the staff rates are set by
Well, then-
my collective bargaining. So it's just,
Right,
so you get
right.
rid of staff and you have bigger classrooms. Then so yeah, I hear you, and I agree it's expensive. It's a hard thing to tackle. It's a big problem to tackle.
It is hard, but it doesn't mean you don't
You
at
gotta
least
try.
make
You
an
always gotta
honest
try.
effort to look
Right.
at the reality.
Or do an audit at the end of the year, and that's what I want to put in the school. We can do that. We can put the audit in.
Whoa, you should see
audit-
the looks I got when
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
talked about that.
We're gonna
Remember
put the audit
that,
back
Joe?
in.
I thought they were gonna bite off my head.
Yeah,
when
the
I
audit
said
needs to go
that.
back in. But anyways, all right. So, what does GCTS stand for? How come I don't know that?
What is what?
GCTS.
Gordon Conwell Theological
Seminary.
Seminary.
So this is I don't know why it's in here twice.
It's
All right.
that annoying.
Okay. All right. Other items. We need to talk about other items, right? One was regionalization. So is this a?
Can we take minutes policy enforcement and regards boards and committees out?
Yeah.
Because I think that's been
Okay.
done.
Okay. I'll take it out. Digitization of records. We talked about. You were going to do something with that.
Yeah.
I'll get rid of this because we already have it in. I want to skip this though and come back to master plan and develop a land because I think I included in other items. In terms of regionalization, something we've always asked you to look at, right? You've always every year you sort of tackle a couple of things. So I put so do we still want Joe as a second tier? We sort of rate things: first tier goal, second tier goals. To me, it's like a second tier goal because something that's always in the background looking at. So right now he's looking at dispatch, maybe COA, and then the 5-10 year. Obviously, we're not going to do fire and police now, but in terms of 5 or 10 year plan, does it make sense in 5 or 10 years to try and combine fire and police? And so once again, it's not something we can do now. It's always an undertone, but if you start planning at 10 years at a time, no one's going to lose their job. No one's. It's about when people retire, or people leave, you start making the department of one department. So.
I've heard this from a lot of people as well. That there's an interest in it. It's just sort of like, hey, these two things are half a mile away from each other. It's just really the smartest thing to do, right? And we already have the kind of like the joint, where it's like you basically whoever's closer. And what's that called? Sorry, I forgot the name of it. When you
Mutual aid.
Someone calls it fire.
mutual aid. Thank you. Yeah. So it's anyway. It's a lot of people.
You have 2 stations in that one, but you need,
Yeah.
but you need 2 chiefs and
Or 2 ambulances,
Yeah,
or
Yeah.
I mean, you could say anytime a chief resigns, you talk about it, but nobody wants to give that,
Yeah, it's just like,
because that's the only way you could start it. You know, I
Right.
think is you could start easy with just the chief,
Right.
and then
I think
whoa.
that's the only way to start it, in my opinion.
Well, that is normally the way to do it, and we need to start that conversation now.
No, I'm not saying we should do it.
Yeah,
But I'm just saying, like in the
Maybe it's a 5 or 10 year plan that I think that the town should not.
yeah,
Should go towards that, not away from it.
yeah. I've heard numerous people kind of saying along these lines. So I think that there's interest in it. I think there's reason to do some more outreach, maybe get some more data, more concepts about it.
We could do more outreach and communication coordination. A lot of the regionalization and IMAs that we put in place have worked well. There have been some others that have been less successful.
Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of good examples.
But
You know.
and it just for something as large as regionalizing our police or fire departments or chiefs even, we're going to need a lot more work and coordination and discussion between the two communities because we briefly had regionalized the chief assessor, and when that was working, and when the person left, our partner community chose a different path because it was the path of least resistance, quite frankly. And I won't get into it. It was unfortunate. They broke the agreement for no reason other than it was just easier than going through his search.
When's the time we had a Wenham Hamilton
Joint
joint
meeting. We should do that.
board meeting? We tried.
Been a while. I think the last one we had was right after or right during the tail end of COVID, and what's his name that since passed away
Oh, yeah.
was on that, and then like about
Yeah.
25 minutes of conversation, she's like, "All right, I think that's everything. I'm done. We ready?" I was like the joint meeting was almost over at that point. What was his name?
Yeah,
That's everything.
John? It was
It would be good.
It was
to do
quick.
Even if
It was
just said
quick. It was
a review of regional services, and then lastly, other opportunities
So
for
let's
discussion.
so I think we should put that on the sometime in the fall.
Yeah.
on our town meetings.
Let's make it a goal, a priority for all of us. It's not.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to agree to it.
Yeah,
and I'm
I
not
agree,
sure
yeah.
that
Yeah,
they will,
why
so-
don't you just reach the administrator and see if there's an interest?
So
Out of
development.
curiosity, because I don't know the board members, but do you all know the board members in Lenham?
Yeah, man.
And they have a 5-person board.
And now do yeah.
Yeah,
Is it- they-
Oh,
they-
yeah.
so far,
Yeah.
so-
But we never transact as a body to consult. I
We
mean,
talked about it, but we didn't very.
right? I think it's a
Joe
good idea.
communicates with her. Now they have a town administrator, town manager.
The only time we see him is at the all 5 boards or
They
whatever.
didn't
with the
change the
schools.
town manager when they went to 5, huh? Okay.
What's the difference?
The
I sign contracts. There's a lot of things that I'm authorized to do under the terms
Right.
of the
Their-
article.
He's got a
their
higher
chair
authority. We
has
delegate
a lot more
more.
authority. Their chair can like sign checks.
All the time.
I can't sign checks.
No, because we delegate all that.
Yes, the town manager act in Hamilton designates that I negotiate contracts, I sign contracts, all under the direction of the select. So the select board says we want to build a second tower, so I'm the one contacting cell tower companies trying to get the money to build the site, coordinate all that stuff, and then we'll get a lease
Love
agreement, and
that.
we'll negotiate, and then we'll bring it to you for you to approve it, and upon your approval, I get to sign it. Other than a few things that are called up by state law that say the select board has to sign, like an IMA, for the most part, I can do all that function as long as I can't sign things that would be more than 3 years. Yeah, because that's the term of my contract, things like that. But Steve doesn't. The town administrator positions in general don't have that authority, and
They just keep things going.
all the
Making decisions.
yeah.
It's tough.
That's good. Okay.
All right, so it's already 9 o'clock. I thought we'd be out here at 9. So this is one that I think that Bill had added with more like developments, large properties, proactive communication with owners, developers, understand future plans. Once again, we feel like we're not in the business of developing properties, we're not in the business of promoting that. But how do we stay proactive so that?
So that's
when
also
things
why
happen.
the town adopted the act that created the Hamilton Development Corporation. So HDC, based on its charter, can function differently than town government can, and actually is more nimble and able to respond to those things. So,
Yeah, aren't they just downtown?
No, they don't
don't have-
have that jurisdiction though.
I think they
But
just
this
have.
is all in our master plan.
yeah, that's,
True.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, there was tons of work done on it.
Anyway, I mean, there's opportunity with 3A, with 40B, with
We have a lot of
A lot of large
working
properties.
farms. We don't know what's gonna happen with that.
right.
oh, we do. They're closing up shop. They're selling the farm.
Oh, really?
Kids selling the farm. We've already
Yeah, what's
we've
gonna
already
happen? But
we've
what's
already
gonna-
left Brick End Farms.
What's gonna happen when they sell it?
Oh, well,
I'm talking
that
about
we
the
don't know.
property,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah.
And then we have Winthrop. Who knows what's gonna happen with that? We have Tobacco Woods. Welch and Lampson just sold.
Just sold. So, what do we know of the future use of that? Or
It's
what?
just-
It's another oil company, same thing.
company, yeah.
So yeah, but there's a nuance there. The company that bought the book of business as well, and I think the real value was in the business. I don't know that they only paid $750,000 for the property because it's contaminated and it's no good to anybody else except the continuing use. But there may be a way to leverage the HDC to get something to happen with the Welsh and Lamson property if the new owner, once they've taken over, doesn't
So they
want the
parceled off
property.
in a small piece and sold it for like $1,000, and then they sold the rest of it to them. So a family member still maintained like 1,500 square feet of that. Which I don't understand what that's about, but that's how the sale's written.
Is that the whole building with the auto body and all that too, or no?
No, I think it was just
That's separate.
yeah,
Not same.
separate.
All those buildings in the back where all the contamination.
Yeah, that go-
right, yeah.
I think it's basically from where the garages stop.
Okay.
That's the building that's all glass.
And
like
the whole
a
yard.
1950s office front glass. And that building all the way over to the lumber. What's
Yeah,
it?
right. That's
Tree-
what we were talking about. Yeah. that's-
So, how many acres do we have?
I'm not sure.
I don't expect any.
Not that. I mean, not a lot.
Not that the real value is in Dodge tree land,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
but there's probably contamination there because that stuff runs and seeps and moves. So if there was contamination in the Welsh and Lamson land, and we know there was,
What
then
can
it's
we do
probably-
as a town, or you can do as a minister to help us sort of be proactive on these properties and reach out and stuff?
I will
Yeah, it's
let me work on that. and
Even
come
if
back
there's
to
a
you.
way to know when things go
Yeah,
for, out
keep
for
us
sale.
informed.
you know.
Yeah, no, well, I
A
can come
trigger
back,
list.
come back to you.
Was it? I mean, that's in like regional like district as well, right?
I can-
So is there an opportunity? Like, 'cause
Well, I
every-
think that district has been quashed by the News Relay.
No,
that was still.
That's
I
not
thought
true.
it did.
So with it, like with all these types of conversations around development as well, if there's opportunities for us to increase commercial revenue, you know, so that it's not going off the households, so that's right. I think where
That's
I'd be
part of it.
particularly interested.
And I put that out here, commercial growth. So maybe that's part of
Well,
it.
the HTC has their whole plan, right? I don't know if they're going to come back around. They wanted what, $5 million or something like that, or
Well,
that's to expand it. And that was going to bring Willow all the way around and make it all
Yeah,
flow.
that's for, that's
So you
for,
could
that's for
have
the
this-
infrastructure.
What
That,
are they
yeah,
doing
that's
now? What's their next plan?
we're still working. We're still working. on that. Either we're advancing
I
the.
think they.
We're
I-
advancing the streetscape stuff.
They have money in the bank to buy enough property, right?
Yeah, I don't know how the impact.
They have like
of that.
300.
I think that was a big concern. I was in HCC meeting this morning.
I
was
put
gonna
tra-
go
I
to
put
it,
trash
but
on
I
it
wasn't
as its
gonna.
own. I put trash on here as its own category because trash is going to start to get really challenging, and I know commuters are. So is it something that
We're
what was our
our
5-10 year plan on trash?
So our,
And that's
right
all
now,
waste,
right
right?
now,
Yeah, traffic, trash,
trash,
recycle.
recycling, compost are all with one.
Right.
So that's not really a 5-year plan. That our current contracts with Casella expire next year. So we've already reopened negotiations with them, and they'll be responding to Hamilton Wenham with a proposal. They want to modernize their collection as well and go to automated system, which they'd be giving us the barrels and recycling bins to be able to do that.
They already do that though, don't they? With
So we'd have to get new barrels.
Just right,
Are they going to be bigger? No.
So I guess the goal is that you're to renegotiate a contract. What's the length of the contract? That you renegotiate
Well,
3-year
to be
contract.
determined. I'm going to get as long as we can.
What's the
I'm
longest?
going to log it. The last time we got it for 10 years, but it seems like the industry's going for 5.
Okay. All right.
Are we
Right now,
gonna
the industry's trending toward 5 because the costs are changing so much that the companies aren't bidding on long-term contracts as they're losing insurance.
Are we going to try to stay with Casella?
I don't want to go to Republic.
Yeah.
No.
It's like, what's the other one who's having all the problems?
Yeah, it's
At the yellow truck.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to try to stay with Casella.
Your camera's off. We're gonna negotiate with everybody.
Yeah,
Get
well,
the best deal.
Open and fair.
Yeah.
That's true.
Casella's
gonna be-
done a
Waste
really
management's the
good
only
job.
other one, right? I think I.
Waste Management's out there. They're not doing as much right now. Hills had got out of the municipal business. They briefly reached out to us last year and asked us if we were interested. I actually told them no because the last time that we had them,
They just left.
they just left.
They just left.
And they were like, well, that was a different management company. I'm like, actions have consequences. You left the town on the lurch, and we had to scramble to find a new trash hauler,
We're very
And now you want to.
and we're
Actions
happy
have
with them. So, like, we're
consequences.
not, no, I'm not interested in getting a quote from Mills. Sorry.
All right, next one. So I'll put 5 years. Ambulance. You put it. You had. I think Bill. You put ambulance. On
Well,
there.
just I know we picked one up. It kind of came a little bit as a surprise to me. But like, what's our future
We
plan?
didn't pick one up. We got an earmark in the budget. I'm not even sure what's going to award yet. Yes. Yes.
Oh, I thought you got
I don't
one.
have the cash yet, and we haven't bought an ambulance yet. We were going to try to buy Rockport's got one out, but I know Beauport's going to bid on it, and they have more money than we do, so we're not going to win that. I'm working with the chief and the deputy chief, and a couple things we have to keep in mind. That we have to be sure what the expense of running an ambulance is versus what we're actually going to be able to charge. So the chief and deputy chief, I actually had this conversation with the chiefs this morning, are going to be working on, getting a really good model for what we can expect in revenue and what it will take to staff to be able to provide adequate staff.
One ambulance.
It's one ambulance, and only for basic life support. So we're going to need to maintain a partnership with Beauport or somebody for advanced life support and paramedic anyway.
What's the advantage of bringing it in house? Save money, make money.
There's potential
Or better control.
Some better control, but Beauport's actually been growing, and they've been doing a good job. We haven't had a problem with Beauport a couple of years now. Where there was a little brief blip when they built out their Boston division, but that has been corrected and has been fine. They're growing again because they're spreading into Swampscott and Marmaret right now, so they're adding trucks and adding service, and that creates more redundancy for the whole area for us, which is all positive. But that industry is kind of volatile, and there have been a lot of companies that have been chugging along and been fine, and then all of a sudden collapsed under their own weight. So we want to guard against that. We want to make sure that there's some local option, but look, you have to talk.
It's a little opposite of what we're saying about dispatch, right? So it's just not. I mean, I think a decision like that, not to dissolve tonight, that should come to the board, and we talk about the pros and cons.
Absolutely.
Because I thought we bought one. I thought I heard that. So yeah, earmarked money. I saw it in the capital plan.
That was something that I appreciate our state legislators. They're always advocating to try to help us get money. They talk to our department heads and ask them what it is they're trying to do, and then they try to go get money to help us do those things.
So the grant.
Yeah.
It was an earmark in the bond bill. So, but the bond bill hasn't even been funded yet. So we won't see that until.
They can't spend the money something else.
Yes.
So
No,
have we
right,
looked
exactly.
have we looked at Wenham's operating expenses for their ambulance?
No, because they won't share their books with us. I've asked repeatedly.
And you wonder why we can't regionalize.
I've asked repeatedly. over the years,
Well,
I've asked and offered.
If the board though is the composition that's similar to ours, and ours feel interested in
It's just
collaboration. We are then maybe.
unbelievable.
through three different
Maybe
town
that's the
administrators, including Steve. Now I've had our chief ask their chief,
How come it's not
and
public
they
information?
never agree to sit down and open up their books to us to let us know what they're billing and what they're actually spending.
There's benefits.
Who chases insurance companies down?
Well, that's part of the calculus. So you have to make sure that what you're billing, you're going to be able to see without spending money
Jesus.
to chase it. And so, like, again, it's not how many calls a year do we have for medical service? How many of those are BLS? Because we're not going to be able to transport paramedic. So if we have 600 calls a year for ambulance service and only 400 of them are BLS, what do we charge? What's the average charge on that? How much money does that make? And then what's the cost of that against how many people you have to staff the ambulances,
Because you
have
probably
an
need
appropriate
both of
response
them.
time.
But to Bill's point, is that public record? Do we as a board have to submit a FOIA request to let them? And be like, give us some information. It's public record.
Public record. Well, it has to be public
That's
record.
where it has to be. I mean, there's some maybe
Redact
more
it.
socializing with the other board.
Yeah,
You can start there.
Like that's we'll take the walls down.
All right. We got an ambulance on here. Staff planning. We talked about this creative plan for staff growth, retirement, succession. So it'd be good, Joe, for you to see a 5-10 year plan with some staff.
All right.
Policies. This is a general one, but do we need to have like a list of policies and maybe just once I think it's a goal, but maybe in a meeting we should look at all our policies, Joe, and just say which one should we focus on. Like signage, we never attack signage because it just got too
I thought we
cumbersome.
did, didn't
No, we never attacked it.
we? All right.
Grants. This is always on here as a low hanging fruit, but this is hard to have a goal because you just pick them up as they come up. So it's not like you can plan ahead for grants. But
But I mean, without making an investment in having staff them, but it's research them and help them. But again, even that it's kind of limited, right? When I got into the business, you could get money from the writer. You can't do that anymore. Most of the grants don't allow you to have that as an offset anymore. Also, having a grant writer means that they're going to identify the grants that you're suited for. They're going to compile all the information, but you still need subject matter experts. Most grants are subject matter specific. So the grant writer can coordinate the whole application process, but they're still going to need somebody in the department to take time to write the stuff that fills out the real need. Grant writers are going to come in here and know everything about police and fire and energy and, council on aging stuff. So by the time you do that in a town our size, it's hard to justify a position to do that, especially where they don't. Yeah, so we're working on it, trying to do it, but it's been the bomb. That's not something we've been able to get to in the show.
Ben had put in a note about commercial growth. Work with town boards, committees, maybe consult on a plea for commercial tax-based growth. Like, what do we know? There's not much there, but how do we at least sophisticatedly try and stay ahead of it and try and promote it
So, yeah,
and understand? I mean, right now, right? A property like Welch and whatever that is available, and we want to promote to a developer. Like, hey, you can make a certain money. What's our tax? Like, do other towns sort of have better relationship with like Beverly has to? Beverly is totally down the other side, right?
Yeah.
Beverly makes deals with developers. They go develop property. We're not there. We don't want to be Beverly, but when we have an opportunity and we have a piece of property, we want to have those relationships where we try to promote growth so that we get some sort of tax base.
I think really and realistically, just because of the demographics in the town and like the needs that we're hearing from our community, it's sort of like that. All this just keeps falling on the backs of the households of folks of all ages, and that we see in these expenses come. We're talking about these roadmaps, these plans, and what else is coming down the pike at us. And it seems like the most sensible thing for us to do would to continue to explore and build a roadmap for commercial revenue. And I feel like I know we're limited in what we can support and sustain based on foot traffic and typical retail and things because we don't have a density. But like, are there other opportunities for us, it's a big change. I'm not saying that we should do it, but I do think that it's one of those things. If we start doing more road mapping, based on my conversations with people, like there is like interest in that, and people have asked me like, well, why don't we do this? Why isn't there more of this happening? Look at New England Biolabs or look at this other type of project.
So we have.
Yeah.
We have looked at the New England Biolabs. That's what we did when we got together and did the planning process for Gordon Conwell's property in the Browns Hill site, and we actually hired. We had hired consultants and experts to go out and take a look at the market and recommend what would be most attractive to work as a commercial entity in Hamilton. And it was none of the stuff that's going to increase our tax base, not markedly. It was assisted living facilities and senior over 55 communities where you'd be getting still really it's largely residential use that because it's operated by a business could potentially pay some taxes in a commercial way. The problem is that in order to shift the tax burden from the residents to the commercial side, you need a critical mass of the property in town being operated for commercial use. You are less than 8% of your property in town is used for critical use, commercial use. You need to be getting close to 20% to be able to shift the tax burden without killing that commercial sector. Because the minute you shift the tax burden to the commercial sector and it becomes more expensive for them to operate, they're going to go someplace where it's less expensive to operate. The options beyond retail are going to be industrial, light industrial, and office. Nothing's happening in office right now. Right. There's too much open office that's not filled elsewhere. Nobody's coming here to do office.
Yeah.
And people in our community tell us that they don't want industrial because that it's antithetical. Thank you. To our character, our rural suburban character that everybody in Hamilton wants to protect. As a town manager, I want to protect it, but I can't justify bringing in dozens and dozens of semi trucks every day to do industrial because trucks are going to be coming and going from an industrial site all the time. Mm-hmm. So you're limited to retail growth.
But could there be some at the back
and
of Shabbat
public service.
going out that side?
There could maybe be some, but there's not enough property out there to move the needle on the amount.
I mean, like,
Right.
New England Biolabs is on Bay Road, like, you know, and
Yeah.
They have
And
a
when-
massive property back there.
And they
Massive.
just expanded their footprint. They weren't interested in the Gordon Conwell site because we had them look at the site twice. And when their offshoot Cell Signaling wanted to expand, they expanded into Manchester right on 128.
Right.
yeah.
We don't have the access to 128 that the others do. We don't have the land net located near places of high traffic volume like other towns in Manchester do.
I'm just
We're
saying,
not in
like,
a
I'm just pointing
position to
out
do
like the Biolab site is on Bay Road.
Yep.
So it comes in and out at Ipswich or Hamilton already. You know that there are these other types of that are, the professional like kind of like service research R&D like the types of facilities. And the types of people who tend to want to work at places like that also like rural environments. And want these kinds of
The employee pool for them is probably pretty
Yeah,
good
but
in
what's
these areas.
happening on Walden Field with that? How many years has that
And
been?
it's still,
Yeah.
I believe
Of course.
the court just ruled in favor of the applicants and the planning board. They ruled against
That's
them.
always 5 years later.
But yeah, it's like
I'm still just like all I'm saying is for us to be thinking a little more like longer term, get more long term data out as well about roadmaps, right? Because I think that's where it's like when the numbers start coming in, it's like, hey, some of these costs are unavoidable because we can't let our infrastructure crumble, and we're going to have to make a spend on this, and it's like, well, what are the compromises going to need to be, like such that it doesn't fall on the households like of all ages, because that's what's occurring now is like there's nowhere to put these costs. And so I think it would behoove us to start to maybe telegraph a little bit more, like, do we want to relax some of this so that, because otherwise the challenge is if we've got crumbling infrastructure or things that need massive upgrades, whether it's water or schools or whatever those essential services are, we have to find a way to fund those things. And right now it all goes back to taxes. And I think that there's interest from a broad group of people to be thinking creatively about where could it come from.
Yeah, but then, and I don't disagree with that, but 2 things. One is we have to be pro-developer boards. We have to actually work, because we can't do that. We have to have developers work with us. So we have to bring them in. So that's okay, but we have to do that. Number 2 is that more houses in commercial development is the same equation.
Depends on who's coming in. Like,
It's the same equation, though. You put 10 houses on a piece of property and collect the taxes, or you put 1 commercial, but you're gonna get the same.
well,
you're gonna
commercial
get the
might
same.
have like different cost bases.
Well, it doesn't right now.
We don't differentiate.
It doesn't right now. So what I'm saying is it does.
I know that
still-
different
yeah.
revenue versus like, well, what infrastructure do they need to support them when you bring more kids?
a
in,
lot of-
eventually,
a
like,
lot of
you're
what we-
gonna need more schools and more this or that.
You know, I get all that, but I'm saying like it gets at a certain point you have to like think about like what it's not like it's having more something to tax,
Yeah.
whether it's more houses or more commercial, it's more something because we need more people paying into it. Whether it's how so as a homeowner, right? You know your taxes go up. You build 5 houses across town, and those people pay more taxes. Your taxes don't go up, so you think it's great, right? So it's still paying. It's homeowners still paying the taxes. Your taxes go up because we built 5 more houses. Or do you build a commercial piece of property and have all these cars? So that's the stuff that it's hard to like build a roadmap for because it's like it's even
You see my point
Yeah.
though of like that, like
No, yeah, this is
bringing in
not a
bunch
new
of-
problem.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
not-
Exactly.
this is as old as the
4, 5,
building.
6 bedroom homes though.
And you
like,
got to own
have-
the property
Yeah.
to.
a bunch
We
of
need
kids.
alternative revenue sources. We always should think of that, but I don't have an answer.
I mean, we had the whole marijuana facility
Oh my
going
God,
on.
what a ruckus
And
that
that would have made
was.
so much money. We would have known it would have been a black box on freaking Asbury Street. They wouldn't even known it's there behind them.
It was so tough putting Cumberland Farm.
And it would have made us $1 million a year, $100,000 a year, and it didn't happen.
But you know what? On the other side of that, you would have lost people. Say, Tynan was the attorney working with the residents for that. He's on a Wenham Select Board now. But anyhow, there's just as much concern for the loss of the bucolic area down there, and that means a lot to people.
That's the circular reference.
But that's exactly what Ben's saying, right? We need to communicate to people that if you're gonna dig in and say we don't want pot farms, then your taxes are gonna be higher. If you're gonna dig in and say, if you're gonna dig in and say we don't want industrial,
But that's the problem.
Then your
People are
taxes are gonna be
complaining
higher.
They're willing
That
to pay
is-
the premium are still the same people complaining about their taxes being too high. It's like either you're willing to pay the premium to enjoy this, or you're willing to accept something. So it's like if they want both sides. of it. It's a lot.
But we should always be looking for alternative revenue sources. I like to say that even over commercial. Alternative revenue sources. And then and optimizing expenses. You know, both of those are a balance.
But back to his,
I want to get our own
back to-
R&D lab here.
back to his goal.
Well, that's
Back to
that
his
was
goal.
my
How
goal
do
for
we-
Gordon Conwell. and it
Wasn't
didn't happen.
Bio
I mean,
looking at
it's not-
Tobacco Road?
Bio
once upon a
looked at
time
it
too.
Was
Not
who?
really. Didn't New England Bio look? Who was the one that was looking at?
cell signaling, and they wound up going
was
to
cell,
Manchester.
right.
So, but back to
So we could try.
back to Ben's goal. Ben's goals. What do we put on either?
And then two
town
things
manager's
that
goal.
and then
or-
unintended consequences. So
Identify
So
alternative
cell
revenue
signaling,
sources.
cell signaling goes
Okay.
and buys the land on Manchester because it's right now on 128, and it's going to be a great win-win, right? Two things that they need to do their work: more water and a lot more electricity.
There you go,
They
Joe.
immediately ask us to have a regional meeting with Engrid to talk to Engrid about how they're going to increase their ability to get power to that site because the grid at this end of the line is almost maxed out.
It is. Thanks, so.
So they need 10 times more power than they have access for right there.
Right.
They aren't able to move forward with their plan in the time that they want to because they don't have enough power to move it forward.
Yeah.
And in Hamilton, we'd be doubly hit by the water thing. At least Manchester's in the North Basin and they have more sustainable water source than we do. So you want to bring in industrial's going to need water. We don't have the water for it.
Not yet. Or the waste.
So,
What
Or
this town's
otherwise.
done in the past, whenever big properties were going up, would buy it.
so I mean,
You know, like,
again,
and take it off the tax.
I agree with you that we need, and I agree with everybody, we need to try to find ways to work on it. But it is
We
something
do.
we've been working
Ben,
on.
I'm with you 110%.
But it's something we've been working on. It's not
I'm
through
not saying
lack
we
of
haven't
time.
worked on it. What I'm suggesting is that we put out roadmaps and just say, hey, here's what's coming down the pike. And if we want to maintain this balance of we have this bucolic, beautiful area, we like the small rural feel. It's mostly not residential, and so then it's just sort of well, that's what it is. It's going to land on our backs, and that's okay. That's the cost of living here. But at least we've telegraphed that it's sort of
Oh, the honeymoon stage.
40 years.
You're absolutely right. So it stays on there.
Well, the bottom line is, you can't thing you want. I mean, that's
Well, now might be the time might be right because people are feeling the impacts we're going to of all these other
housing. Like if I said right now, where do we store affordable housing? This is affordable housing. Do they keep we know right? How often does that count get updated and published? Is it required to do it? Is it whose responsibility? Is it?
Add that to our project tracker that we're
Yeah.
DOHLC.
Yeah, put it on the website with
Are you talking about the
by next Friday.
Tracks that.
DOHLC.
If we get the Gordon Cop,
And they have that number right now.
if we
I'm sure they do.
there's a subsidized housing for inventory. There's the SHR with substantial EOHLC, and they have our current number.
Listens to me.
They have our current number. What it is.
We should look at all town-owned property too, though. I know we've done this. Is there an opportunity to monetize any of that?
Master plan.
Most of the town-owned property is not buildable lots, so it would be difficult. We had talked at one point. I raised the idea about talking about whether we wanted to do pocket parks or pocket cemetery plots or something like that as a way to generate revenue. Or parks would generate revenue, but they'd beautify neighborhoods, and then pocket cemeteries would
Yeah.
be potentially ways to be things like.
Interesting.
kind of like that.
Yeah, that's really.
But
I might need to.
I got sidetracked this year with other things.
Not putting them on your pocket parks.
Not the master plan. I'm just kidding. That's a joke.
That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to.
Shots fired.
It's too late. I'm tired. It's 3 hours.
I'm going to
But excuse.
I'm gonna make it into 2 sections. I'm gonna make it the primary, the top 10, and then there's the next 10, which is like a goal for the year to go, and then I'm gonna do goals for us because something we said, Joe says they're not goals for me, they're goals for the board. Yeah.
Good idea.
And I kind of said as my little intro spiel too. What's the feedback for us? How do we improve? How do we help out?
Yeah, we should do a 360, right?
I don't even know what that.
I mean, it's just you're looking at the business all the way around, from the employee at the bottom to the top, and right back. up.
Yeah, 360 means you ask the employee to review you.
Right. It's eye opening. I've been through them.
Often it's like a manager asks the employee to review that.
Yes.
I move that we
Yes,
adjourn.
we're done.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Good job, everyone. That was a good meeting.
That was kind of fun. How'd that happen?